Chapter 1266. Soon, Long Yu took all the ice gods on the ice continent into his inner world. This sudden upheaval made all the ice gods panic. They did not know what was going on, and the whole continent was in chaos. But no matter what, it was impossible for the Ice God clan to leave that continent. Long Yu was too lazy to care about the feelings of the Ice God clan. But no matter what, it was impossible for the Ice God clan to leave that continent. Anyway, in the end, these ice gods were the result of him absorbing their power. If he faced a situation like before where he needed to continuously consume power, now Long Yu only needed to absorb the power of these ice gods. Of course, even if he could not absorb all of their power, he could easily absorb at least 10% of their power. How many ice gods were there on this continent? At least hundreds of billions of them. With so many ice gods, if Long Yu absorbed 10% of the power of each of them, their total power would definitely be several times that of Long Yu's, of course. There was no need for Long Yu to absorb their power until the critical moment, because even if they were just in Long Yu's inner world, they could passively enhance the power of Long Yu's mind realm. With so many ice gods, Long Yu's mind realm probably increased several times, so that Long Yu's basic power also increased by 30%. Then, the two continued to search the whole wreckage of the small world. They searched all the 7 primordial magic fruits, and in the end, they did not find any other good things, so they left the wreckage of the small world. It took them a total of a day to search this small world. Then, the two continued to search the wreckage of other small worlds. First, the wreckage of the ice god's small world that was relatively fresh. After several days, the two of them finally explored all the wreckage of the Ice God clan's small world that they had obtained not long ago. They also obtained a lot of things. Unfortunately, most of them were special pills that could only be taken by the Ice God clan. They were useless to the Demon clan and the Human clan. Between different races, the physiological state was too different. The Demon race and the Human race were still fine, mainly because their physiological structure was not much different. However, compared to other races, there was almost no similarity. The Demon clan had a demon core, and the Human clan had a dantian. However, there was only one ice core in the body of the ice god. Naturally, the types of elixirs that they could absorb were different. Only the things that were born from the advancement of martial arts realms were the same for every race. For example, there were true spirits, divine abilities, and innate divine ability fruits. There was no difference between these things. Among the items obtained, the ones that were useful to both Long Yu and Red Oriole were undoubtedly some weapon refinement and artifact forging materials, as well as a small number of creation items. In total, they were worth more than 300,000 army contribution points, which was quite a good harvest. Most importantly, the Earth Seal Grade 3 creation item that the two of them had found at the beginning was worth more than 200,000 contribution points. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to find anything truly valuable in these small worlds. Generally speaking, the members of the Ice God clan who came out to battle rarely carried their precious items with them. It was not only the Ice God clan, but also the Demon clan and the Human clan. If the Human clan and the Demon clan wanted to take the initiative to attack the territories and territories of the foreign races, then the participating cultivators would most likely store their precious items. This was because the probability of death was too high for the attackers, and it was very likely that they would not be able to return. If they carried their precious items with them, wouldn't they be giving them to the foreign races? Most importantly, on the battlefield of the foreign races, most people didn't have the time to pay attention to the fallen resources during the battle. No matter who it was, survival was definitely the top priority. Moreover, no one knew whether they could survive in the chaos of the battlefield. This required everyone to focus all their energy on the battle. Once they were distracted, it was very likely that they would go for wool and come home shorn. It was normal for them to be killed directly. Long Yu and Red Oriole were extremely lucky to obtain a few fresh Ice God clan small world remains this time. It was precisely because of this that they made a huge profit. For Long Yu, he had just obtained 5 million contribution points. The things he found now were worth more than 300,000 contribution points, which didn't seem to be much in comparison. However, one had to know how much contribution Long Yu had made in order to obtain these 5 million contribution points. 300,000 contribution points. Even Lei Han and Bai Yu, who were both 5th stage sovereigns, would normally need 2 to 3 months of hard work to obtain such a sum. Therefore, the harvest this time was really not small. However, it didn't seem to be of much use to Long Yu. After searching these small world remains, the two of them still had many small world remains from the Demon Saint's tomb. There were a total of 27 small world remains. However, the two of them didn't have the time to search these small world remains for the time being. About half a month had passed since then, and the two demigod experts from the demon race had finally returned. On this day, Long Yu and Red Oriole had just come out of the Ice God clan's small world remains when someone came to inform them that the two demigods, Dragon Wing and Landslide, had finally returned in victory. It was said that the battle this time was very fruitful. This made Long Yu happy. The battle was very fruitful. Could it be that the two demigods had killed all 3 demigod aliens? Although this was the outcome that Long Yu had always imagined, he had always felt that demigod experts weren't that easy to kill, so it might not have been achieved. If it was true, Long Yu's previous worries were unnecessary. He was worried that the aliens would know that he had the Ice God clan's holy relic on him. If the alien races knew about it, it was very likely that they would all join forces. It could be said that this move of Long Yu's was a risky one, but there was no doubt that it was the only thing he could do at that time. Fortunately, the situation seemed to be quite good. Long Yu and Red Oriole hurried out to take a look. As expected, they found that a lot of people were walking toward the mission hall. Almost everyone in the entire battlecruiser fortress was crowding toward the mission hall. Long Yu had been to the mission hall of the battlecruiser fortress a few times, but he had never seen so many people crowded together. There were probably hundreds of thousands of people in this mission hall. Of course, these people wanted to see the two demigods of the demon race. After all, ordinary people might not even have a chance to see demigod existences even once in hundreds of years. This time, it was only because the Ice God clan had launched a rather sudden plan that the demigod experts were mobilized. Otherwise, demigod experts would rarely be mobilized in a battle. Usually, demigod experts had their own responsibilities and would not participate in ordinary battles. Otherwise, the alien races would also send demigod experts to deal with them. There is no need for this. Therefore, the probability of ordinary people meeting demigod experts was extremely low. But now, the two demigod experts had finally returned in victory. It was said that the entire battle with the Ice God clan would be reversed. The key to the entire battle, coupled with the appearance of demigod experts, caused the mission hall to be packed with people. When Long Yu and Red Oriole came out, many people recognized them and made way for them, allowing them to walk toward the center of the mission hall. At this time, the demigod experts of the demon race, Dragon Wing and Landslide, had both turned into human forms and came to the center of the mission hall. The powerful aura they emitted made the hundreds of thousands of people around them not dare to say a word. Therefore, the entire mission hall was unexpectedly quiet. No one made any noise. This situation was too rare. Only the aura of a demigod could suppress so many people at the same time. The hero is here. Soon, under the whispers of many people around, Long Yu and Red Oriole finally came to the center of the mission hall and stood in front of the demigod experts. Long Yu was once again face to face with the two demigods of the demon race that he had met before. Boy, well done. In the entire war against the Ice God clan, you played a decisive role. The Black Tiger demigod had turned into a black-skinned, brawny man. He laughed and said to Long Yu, "Now, I can finally announce the result of the entire battle. The final result of the battle in the space tunnel is that we annihilated the two demigods of the Ice God clan and killed the demigod of the Desolate God clan." Although the result was within Long Yu's expectations, he still found it hard to hold back his excitement when he really heard it. They really killed them. The Ice God clan has lost two demigods. From now on, they will definitely shrink their defense line, and it is even less likely that they will actively attack us. The battle that has lasted for so many years is finally coming to an end. After long, he turned into the shape of a human. He was an extraordinarily handsome, golden-haired young man. He also said with a smile. The crowd was seething after the news was announced. The others couldn't hold it anymore. Even though the aura of the demigod experts covered the whole place, hundreds of thousands of people couldn't help but cheer. It was too shocking. They had killed the demigods of alien races, and 3 of them at once. As a result, the overall strength of the Ice God clan would be greatly weakened after the death of 2 demigods. It would be impossible for them to invade the demons again. It was even possible that the demons would take the initiative to attack the Ice God clan. Although the demons didn't know how many demigods the Ice God clan had in total, they had about the same number as the demons. Now that 2 demigods had died, it would be very difficult for the Ice God clan to defend themselves if the demons attacked the territory of the Ice God clan. Of course, the Ice God clan wasn't the only enemy on the battlefield of alien races. There were many more enemies around the territory of the demons, ready to take advantage of the situation. Chapter 1267. The 2 demigod experts didn't mention the specifics of the battle. At the very least, there was no need to say it publicly. However, the golden-haired handsome young man, Long E, privately explained the specifics of the battle to Long Yu through telepathy. After all, the situation was stabilized because of Long Yu. On the other hand, if it weren't for Long Yu's Ice God artifact, it would have been hard to say how the battle would have ended. It was even possible that the 2 demigods would have been defeated. Therefore, Long Yu was the greatest contributor in the battle. Of course, it was not him who made the greatest contribution, but the Ice God artifact. Very soon, Long E told Long Yu the details of the battle. As it turned out, after Long Yu escaped, Landslide and Dragon Wing had been attacking the demigod of the Silver Ice God race together, while the demigod of the 9-edged Ice Crystal Ice God race and the demigod of the White Spiky Ball Desolate God race were fighting in the distance. Neither of them came to help. That was because the non-nagonal Ice Crystal Alien wanted to rob the Ice God clan's sacred item from the Desolate God clan's demigod first, and then help his companions. Otherwise, the Desolate God clan's demigod would definitely take the opportunity to escape. As a result, the key of the whole battle was whether the Silver Ice God demigod or the Desolate God demigod could last longer. The result was obvious. After all, the demigod of the demon race fought the Silver demigod 2 against 1. After 3 days, the 2 of them finally killed the Silver demigod together. The Desolate God demigod far away was also dying, but it was still holding on and did not let the Ice God artifact be taken away. A Silver demigod was killed, and the demigod of the Desolate God clan was heavily wounded. Then, it was needless to say what happened next. The 2 demigods on the demon's side killed the demigod of the Desolate God clan. Then, Landslide dealt with the remaining demigod of the Ice God clan, and Dragon Wings retrieved the relic of the Ice God clan that the demigod of the Desolate God clan had hidden in the small world. Then, 2 against 1 again, they finally killed the remaining demigod of the Ice God clan. The whole situation was completely within Long Yu's calculations, and it was going exactly as he expected. The effect of the sacred relic of the Ice God clan was vividly demonstrated. This time, the death of the 3 alien demigods was not only of great strategic significance for the demon race, but could also slightly affect the survival of the species. Also, Dragon Wings and Landslide had collected the debris of the small worlds of 3 demigods in total. Demigod. That was the level of the Dragon Emperor of the 9 Nether. Although it was not as good as the Dragon Emperor of the 9 Nether, who was at the peak of the demigod realm, the remains of his small world were already comparable to the Netherworld realm. What made Long Yu excited was that Dragon Wings and Landslide had decided that they would each take the remains of a small world and then give the small world of the demigod of the Ice God clan to Long Yu. Since it was a battle between demigods, the battle was too intense. Although the enemy was successfully killed, many places in the enemy's small world had been destroyed. Besides, the enemy even tried to self-detonate when he was about to die. It was a pity that he was stopped by Landslide, and the enemy was completely killed in the end. The small world remains of the demigod level. Although it's full of holes, there must be a lot of good stuff in it. Long Yu was immediately excited. He knew that there were too many good things in the Juyo Dragon Emperor's small world, which were all left by the Juyo Dragon Emperor. As a demigod, the nine-edged ice crystal demigod of the Ice God clan certainly did not expect that he would die in the outside world this time. Therefore, everything in his small world existed. Many good things, such as cultivation resources, were all stored inside. How many precious things would there be in the small world, remains of a demigod who had lived for 1,000 years? Probably too many to count. Of course, the small world remains of the Ice God demigod that Long Yu had obtained were already very seriously damaged. It was not certain how many good things could be preserved in it. No matter what, this was a great opportunity for Long Yu. He might be able to obtain something very useful. However, Long Yu was a little suspicious. When Long Yi gave him the wreckage of the demigod small world, would he have already taken all the good stuff from it? Long Yu couldn't be sure about that. As if seeing Long Yu's doubt, Long Yi spoke to Long Yu again with a smile. Don't worry. Since it's a reward for you, I won't touch you in advance. However, I have a condition. The small world remains will be used to exchange for the Ice God clan's relic. How about that? That made Long Yu feel relieved. It was good that they hadn't touched it. Otherwise, all the good things would be useless. As for the Ice God clan's relic, since Long Yu had taken it out, he didn't plan to take it back. After all, it was a strategic item. Long Yu had no use for it now, and he couldn't rely on it to improve his strength. It would be better to give it to the demons for safekeeping. Long Yu's preliminary guess was that the relic had something to do with the divine relic of origin that gave birth to the Outer God clan and had something to do with the real gods. But Long Yu was still far from that level. By the time he needed to use the Ice God clan's relic, his martial arts realm must have reached a very high level. By then, his status between the human race and the demon race would not be low. He would also have a lot of treasures. It shouldn't be a problem for him to take back or exchange for an Ice God clan's relic. Seeing that, Long Yu nodded in agreement. Long Yi and Landslide both heaved a sigh of relief. They were really afraid that Long Yu wouldn't agree and insisted on taking the Ice God clan's relic. In that case, they would definitely have some conflicts with Long Yu. It must be noted that the demon race would definitely take possession of the Ice God clan's relic and wouldn't give it to a human boy. Even if this human had made a great contribution, the Ice God clan's relic was not something that a person at the level of Emperor could keep. Now that Long Yu had agreed to exchange the Ice God clan's relic for the debris of a demigod's small world, both parties were happy. Besides, the Battlefield Legion would definitely have more rewards for Long Yu. This time, you've made a great contribution. I, Long Yi, hereby announce that you will be awarded a first-class honor badge. Whether in the territory of the human race or the demon race, those who hold the first-class honor badge have the power of law enforcement. No matter where you are, you will have special privileges. If anyone wants to touch you, they will be the enemy of the entire Battlefield Legion of the demon race. Long Yi said to Long Yu with a smile. At the same time, his voice spread out and was heard by the hundreds of thousands of people in the mission hall, causing another great disturbance. First-class honor badge. How long had it been since the last time? Even some of the 7th phase great Dominator commanders who had made great contributions in the past had only received a second-class honor badge at most. Now, Long Yu had been awarded a first-class honor badge? This was a little too exaggerated, wasn't it? Had this human boy named Long Yu really made such a great contribution to this battle? Most people present didn't know the details of the battle. Of course, they didn't know what Long Yu had done. Few people knew about the appearance of the Ice God clan's relic, so they were still doubtful about whether Long Yu could receive such an honor. However, even if these people were doubtful, they didn't dare to say it. Even if they doubted Long Yu, they couldn't doubt a demigod. Now that the demigod had spoken, how could Long Yu's role in this battle not be important? The first-class honor badge was really a bit too shocking, because it represented that Long Yu had made a contribution that could determine the direction of the battle, or at least lead a battle to a complete victory. Only then could he receive such a medal. Moreover, It had to be a large-scale battle that could affect the overall situation of the battle. Of course, there was no need to say much about the result of the battle with the Demon Clan. It would definitely play a very important role in the war between the Ice God Clan and the Demon Clan. But did this Long Yu play a very important role in it? Most people would never know about it in this lifetime. What they remembered was that a young human boy named Long Yu had received a first-class honor badge from a demigod of the Demon Clan. This medal, apart from giving Long Yu a function similar to the death exemption medal in the territories of the Demon Clan and the Human Clan, it could also automatically give him 500,000 battle contribution points every month. This was equivalent to the amount a 4th or 5th stage Sovereign Realm expert could get after completing a month's worth of missions. Long Yu didn't even need to do anything, and he would be able to get so many contribution points. In addition, this first-class honor badge had a lot of other benefits. Of course, other people were not very clear about the details. Only some leaders of the Demon Clan truly understood what the greatest use of the first-class honor badge was. This meant that Long Yu would have a chance to make a request in the future, and it was an opportunity to make a request from a demigod. No matter what it was, as long as Long Yu wanted to use this opportunity, there would definitely be a demigod to help him complete it. Of course, the premise was that this matter would not harm the interests of the entire Demon Clan or the Human Clan. How heavy of a reward was this? Even if it was a death exemption medal and 500,000 battle contribution points every month, it was actually not much. This opportunity to make a request from a demigod was the rarest part of the first-class honor badge. One must know that this kind of opportunity was something that even a 7th phase Great Dominator commander on the battlefield yearned for. However, even a commander might not have a chance to get it. It was really too difficult to get a first-class honor badge. Chapter 1268. Long Yi quickly explained all the functions of the first-class honor badge to Long Yu, and these functions made Long Yu very excited all of a sudden. Firstly, this first-class honor badge had the same effect as a death exemption badge. As long as he was in the territory of the human race or the demon race, whoever dared to attack Long Yu would be declaring war against the entire battlefield army, and would be the enemy of the entire battlefield army. This point was basically useless to other cultivators who were able to obtain a first-rank honor emblem. This was because other cultivators who had made great contributions in the outsider battlefield and even obtained a first-rank honor emblem, aside from 7th phase dominators. Who else could do it? 7th phase Great Dominator level existences. If they went to the territories of the human race and the demon race, it would be impossible for anyone to make a move against them. This was because they were already invincible existences below the demigod level, and demigod-level existences would not participate in this kind of internal strife. Only a coincidence like Long Yu could obtain a first-class honor badge when his cultivation was relatively low. For him, this was undoubtedly a sharp weapon, because it meant that he would be able to do whatever he wanted in the territory of the human race or the demon race in the future. If he encountered the encirclement of the white-feathered demon race and the golden flood dragon demon race again, the other party would not dare to do anything to Long Yu at all. Otherwise, if the battlefield army pursued responsibility, the race that attacked would definitely be completely annihilated. There is no need to doubt the authority of the battlefield army at all. Secondly, after obtaining this first-class honor badge, Long Yu could automatically obtain 500,000 battlefield army merit points every month, which could be used to exchange for various cultivation resources. Moreover, when he had just obtained the badge, there were still 5 million basic battlefield army merit points stored in it. In other words, Long Yu now had another 5 million battlefield army merit points on him. Long Yu had not thought of what he would exchange these 5 million battlefield army merit points for the time being. But no matter what he exchanged it for, it would definitely be able to improve his overall strength to a new level. Thirdly, and most importantly, Long Yu now had a chance to make a request to a demigod expert. With this first-class honor badge, if Long Yu encountered any trouble in the future, he could ask a demigod expert for help. The first thing that Long Yu thought of was the Ice God clan's holy relic. If he needed it, perhaps he could use this opportunity to get it back. However, It was still a long time before Long Yu needed to use the Ice God clan's holy relic, and he did not know if he would have already used this opportunity by then. Therefore, if it was not necessary, Long Yu did not want to use this opportunity to ask a demigod expert for help casually, because this was an opportunity that could help Long Yu solve a lot of problems. The above three aspects were the most important. As for the following aspects, there were still some minor aspects. There were dozens of them, and all of them were related to the special privileges that Long Yu could obtain in certain aspects. Although these minor aspects were not very important, if each of them was listed separately, it would be a great benefit for ordinary cultivators. There was even a chance to apply for the mobilization of an army of dominators every year, and the entire demon race or human race would help out for 3 days. As long as it did not go against the overall interests of the human race or the demon race, they would help out. And this was just one of the privileges. It was not hard to imagine how useful this first-class honor badge was. For Long Yu, it was equivalent to letting him do whatever he wanted in the demon race and the human race's territory. In many ways, this honor badge could provide him with a lot of convenience. Just thinking about it was enough to excite him. Long Yu casually looked around and could see the envious and jealous expressions of countless people around him. "Thank you, Senior." After receiving the first-class honor badge, Long Yu smiled and expressed his gratitude to Long Yi. Long Yi handed a golden badge that represented the demon race to Long Yu. He had prepared this beforehand, and now he took it out. This golden badge had the symbol of the Demon Race Alliance, and it seemed to be made of a very precious and sturdy material. In any case, Long Yu had a feeling that it was almost impossible for him to destroy this badge. On the back of this golden first-class honor badge, the two words Long Yu were engraved. It was obvious that it had been customized for him. Every first-class honor badge was a unique existence, and they were all customized for someone. Therefore, it was impossible for others to replicate it. It was not just a matter of the material, but also because the first-class honor badge had a trace of the aura of a demigod. Now, Long Yu could feel the aura of Long Yi from this badge. As long as they saw this badge, people would immediately understand that this badge was made by a demigod. Up until now, Long Yu had obtained a total of 2 things. The first was the fragment of a demigod's small world, and the second was this first-class honor badge. But that was not all. There seemed to be more to come, because after Dragon Wing finished speaking, the black tiger-type mountain breaker walked over. "Long Yu, I admire you very much. Although your cultivation is not high, you're not far from the ruler's secret realm. I want to give you a chance. If you can complete the next challenge, you will get another chance, a chance to enter the Demigod College." Landslide walked over and said to Long Yu with a smile. What he said shocked the surrounding people once again. Demigod College. It was actually a Demigod College. Everyone present was shocked. Compared to the first-class honor badge, the Demigod College was even more impressive. If the first-class honor badge could be obtained by luck, then being able to enter the Demigod College was the proof of absolute strength and potential. Simply put, the Demigod College was a place where practitioners were trained to become demigods. There were very strict requirements to enter it. There were less than 100 students in the entire Demigod College. It could be said that the students were the elites of the elites among the humans and demons, and all of them had the possibility of becoming demigods in the future. However, even for the elites of the demigods, the odds of them stepping into the demigod level were very low. Otherwise, there wouldn't be only a dozen demigods on the human race and the demon race's side right now. It was too difficult to cultivate to the demigod realm. Someone sent me a message saying that you seem to be related to Consort Yu, the saintess of the Joyo clan. Landslide sized up Long Yu with his tiger-like eyes and said appreciatively, "Consort Yu used to be a member of the Demigod College. Of course, she has already graduated from it. She hasn't become a demigod yet, has she? Can she graduate?" Long Yu found it strange. The graduation requirement of the Demigod College is not to become a demigod. If that's the case, most people will never graduate. "Ha!" Long Yi interrupted with a smile. "As long as you can complete enough missions in the Demigod College and accumulate enough points, you can graduate from it. The main purpose of the Demigod College is to train future demigods, not to help them become demigods. They can only help them take fewer detours on their path of cultivation and give them more guidance. You should know that there are often 2 demigods in the Demigod College to give guidance to the students. I see. Long Yu nodded. He was also quite interested in this kind of Demigod College. No wonder Consort Yu was so strong. She must have reached the level 7 Dominator and was many times stronger than Shuel Luo, who was a level 5 Dominator. To put it simply, this kind of Demigod College was a place for the most talented cultivators in the human race and the demon race to improve their strength. They would also have the opportunity to receive guidance from demigod powerhouses. For Long Yu, this kind of Demigod College was something that could only be encountered by luck. Even Consort Yu had stayed in the Demigod College before, which was why she had such strength. It was obvious that entering the Demigod College was a good choice. But before that, Landslide said that he would challenge him. Only by passing this challenge could he enter the Demigod College. Senior Landslide, what kind of challenge do you want to challenge? Long Yu asked. It's very simple. You just need to defeat my mirror image doppelganger. Landslide laughed. Of course, the mirror image doppelganger will be at the level of the 7-star Emperor. It'll be on par with you. That is also the strength I had when I was in the 7-star Emperor. As long as you can defeat it, you will be qualified to enter the Demigod College. Defeat the mirror image doppelganger of a demigod powerhouse. Long Yu was shocked when he heard this. The difficulty of this condition was really high. It should be known that demigod-level experts were already very strong even when they were 7-star Emperor-level experts. It was not difficult for them to challenge those of a higher level. Otherwise, they would not have been able to step into the demigod realm later on. As soon as this condition was put forward, the surrounding people also knew about it. They all started to discuss it. Long Yu was now at the level of the 7-star Emperor. Although he had made great contributions in the battle against the Ice God clan, most of the practitioners present did not know his real strength. Many people even thought that Long Yu was just lucky and that it had nothing to do with his real strength. Therefore, he must not be very strong. His opponent was the mirror image doppelganger of a demigod powerhouse. Although the mirror image doppelganger was at the level of the 7-star Emperor, which was the same as Long Yu, its combat ability must be many times stronger than Long Yu's. After all, it was a demigod powerhouse. My young friend, you don't have to be so surprised. Although I am a demigod, I was not very outstanding when I was in the 7-star Emperor. If you are really strong, you can complete this challenge easily. Chapter 1269. Hearing Landslide's words, Long Yu nodded and calmed himself down. Well, I want to try anyway. No matter what, this was an opportunity. Not only was it related to whether or not he could enter the Demigod College, it was also a very rare experience. Fighting against a demigod expert's mirror image avatar was an opportunity that could only be discovered by luck. Long Yu still wanted to encounter an expert at the same level as him. Only then would he be able to grow in battle. Don't worry. I'll arrange an independent space for you later. In that space, you can use all the methods you know without any worries. You don't have to worry about others knowing your secrets. Landslide laughed heartily. As for me, of course I can see all your skills, but I don't think it matters, right? Well, it doesn't matter. Hearing that, Long Yu nodded. Indeed, Landslide could become a demigod, so he must have great achievements in martial arts. Long Yu's skills were probably just child's play in his eyes. It was also good to let Landslide see his real strength. Maybe he could point out some of his shortcomings so that Long Yu could improve in some aspects. After the 2 demigods temporarily announced the result of the battle against the Ice God clan, the people in the mission hall gradually dispersed because there was nothing to see here anymore. The 2 demigods turned around and were ready to leave. Of course, Long Yu was ready to follow them, and Red Oriole was with him. As for the others, they were too embarrassed to follow. Soon, the demigod Wings also left by himself, leaving only Long Yu and Red Oriole. They followed the demigod Landslide to a restricted area in the battlecruiser fortress. The so-called restricted area was a place where no one was allowed to enter without permission. The entrance to the restricted area was guarded by several sovereign realm experts. The restricted area was usually used to discuss strategic matters or other important matters that could not be made public would be carried out in this place. For example, right now, Landslide wanted to challenge Longyu. If he brought him to this restricted area, it would be more hidden and no one would disturb him. It would be more peaceful. Soon, Landslide brought Longyu to a relatively large room in the restricted area. In this room, he raised his hand and condensed the power of the water element, creating an independent space in a moment. Then, Landslide sat down cross-legged and gestured to Longyu. "All right, go in. This isn't just a test for you. It's also an opportunity. I hope that you'll be able to comprehend something from this battle. That way, even if you can't pass the challenge, you'll still gain something." Okay. Longyu nodded. In fact, he was quite confident in himself. Dealing with a demigod mirror clone at the level of the 7-star Emperor sounded terrifying, but Longyu still believed that he could definitely defeat anyone at the same level. Of course, the current Landslide's mirror image avatar was probably the strongest opponent Longyu had ever encountered in the same realm. He had already made 120% preparations. If necessary, he would use all of his methods. If he still could not defeat Landslide's mirror clone, then there was nothing he could do. His final bottom line was to use all his trump cards. If it did not work, he would give up. He only had a few of his strongest skills: the Void Spirit Dragon Dagger, the Dragonbone Tower, the forbidden skill of the ancient gods, the 4 aspects Killing Prison, and the innate skills of the Juyo Dragon Emperor. Before using these trump cards, Longyu could still use other methods to test the opponent. "By the way, Senior Landslide, can I challenge your mirror image with you? I would like to have a try too." Red Oriole suddenly asked in a sweet voice. Seeing that Longyu was about to challenge the demigod mirror clone, she could not hold back her urge to attack. Hearing that, Longyu immediately nodded. "That's right. If it's convenient for you, Senior, why don't you let Red Oriole challenge it together?" He might as well make the request while he still had the chance. After all, it was not difficult for the demigod Landslide to create another independent space and a mirror clone for Red Oriole to challenge. It could even be settled with a wave of his hand. Also, Landslide was in a good mood right now. It was the best time to make the request. Haha, no problem. As a matter of fact, the Blood Demon clan has already made an appointment with us demigods to send someone to the examination of the Demigods College. Although we don't know if that person is you. Since you are here coincidentally, you can finish the task together with the Dragon Boy. Landslide laughed. Of course, the Blood Demon clan's quota will still be reserved for you. But you don't need to use it. Just finish it here. Thank you, Senior. Red Oriole's eyes glittered, and she immediately put on a big smile. As she expected, Landslide was in a very good mood. He would certainly agree to such a small request. More importantly, it was the first time that Landslide had truly killed a demigod expert of an alien race after all these years. It was all thanks to Longyu, who created an almost perfect environment for them to kill. Tempted by the Ice God clan's relic, they killed 3 demigods of alien races in a row in the swirl of the primordial force. It was arguably the greatest achievement that the demons had made on the battlefield of alien races in the past 1,000 years. Their declining trend against the Ice God clan in recent years was immediately reversed. With such a result, the loss of the 4 dominant legions of the Demon Clan was also an acceptable loss. Although it was still a pity compared to the loss of the Ice God clan, the 4 dominant legions could be said to be a negligible loss. That was because there were still a lot of dominating legions hidden in the small worlds of the 3 demigods. After the 3 demigod aliens were all killed, Landslide and Dragonwing took care of all the dominating legions. There were 11 dominating legions of the Ice God clan and the Desolate God clan in total, which meant that there were more than 110,000 cultivators in the secret realm of dominators. It was hard to imagine how much damage they would cause to the demon race when they attacked the 3 outer galaxies. Together with the help of the demigod experts, they might not even be able to defend one of the 3 outer galaxies. For the demon race, it would be a loss that they had never suffered in tens of thousands of years. The outer galaxies were the last barrier outside the demon race's territory. Once they were lost, it meant that the demon race's territory was directly connected to the battlefield of the alien race, and the demon race would be in an extremely dangerous situation. Therefore, in this battle, there was not much to say about Long Yu and Red Oriole's contributions. Landslide was also in a very good mood. As long as the request was not too excessive, he was sure that he would accept it. After Landslide agreed, he raised his hand again and constructed another independent space in the room with a water primordial energy. In this new independent space, there was a mirror image of a level 1 Great Sovereign, which was a miniature version of Landslide when he was a Great Sovereign. Its strength was equivalent to the level of Landslide when he was a level 1 Great Sovereign. It was definitely very powerful. Although Red Oriole was also very strong and could even defeat a level 3 Ice God Clan opponent on her own, it was still very difficult to predict the result of a battle with Landslide's mirror image. After looking at Red Oriole, Long Yu raised his feet and walked into the independent space, ready to challenge Landslide's mirror image. With a flash of white light, Long Yu's vision shifted and he found himself in a deep blue, silent space. This space was completely made up of water-type absolute beginning power. It was not very big, but it was enough for a cultivator of Long Yu's level to fight inside. The water primordial energy seems to be very useful. It seems that I have to quickly comprehend it with little void. Feeling the dark blue space, Long Yu was quite emotional. The primordial energy of the 5 elements that he had come into contact with was only the water primordial energy. The Void Nether Dragon Blade was already full of the water primordial energy, but it was a pity that Long Yu did not comprehend it. If he wanted to quickly comprehend the water primordial energy, it seemed that the more compatible he was with the power of the divine text of space, the easier it would be. This made Long Yu think of the alchemy materials that he had obtained before. The Rainbow Stone Egg, the Rainbow Crystal Powder, and a series of other auxiliary materials could be used to refine heaven-defying pills, such as the Void Travel Pill and the Demonic Heaven Travel Pill. Among them, the Void Travel Pill could greatly improve the compatibility of the cultivator with the divine text of space. However, he did not know whether Liao Lele could refine these heaven-defying pills now. Although it was very difficult to refine heaven-defying pills, she had the Bitter Sea Medicine Cauldron, a rare alchemy weapon, after all. It would not be too strange if she could refine them. Long Yu thought about this for a moment, and then quickly focused on the situation in front of him. In this quiet, dark blue space, there was another figure besides him. It was a black-skinned man with an extremely burly body. At first glance, one could tell that he looked like a black tiger, Landslide. Landslide's original body was a black tiger, but this mirror image doppelganger did not transform into its original body of a demon. It was still in the form of a human. Obviously, it was not going to use its full strength at the beginning. This was also what Long Yu had thought. Before the real battle began, they would definitely test each other's strength first. This is the mirror image doppelganger of a demigod expert when I was in the 7-star Emperor. I hope it will not disappoint me. Long Yu's eyes were full of fighting spirit. To be honest, he had never met an opponent in the same realm as him who could fight with him. However, this kind of mirror image in front of him was obviously not easy to deal with. In terms of momentum alone, Landslide's mirror image was far stronger than ordinary experts of the Emperor level. Even some sovereign secret realm cultivators could not compare to the pressure that this mirror image brought to Long Yu. Chapter 1270. Landslide's mirror doppelganger, a burly, dark-skinned man, stopped in the dark blue void. His eyes were full of vigor, as if he was waiting for Long Yu to take the initiative. Since you're waiting for me, I won't hold back. Long Yu and the mirror doppelganger were hundreds of meters apart. He narrowed his eyes and glanced at his opponent. Then he raised his hand and began to condense netherworld divine characters in his hand. Fallen dark stars. One after another, fallen dark stars formed around Long Yu and flew toward the burly mirror doppelganger. Hundreds, then thousands of fallen dark stars flew all the way, and soon approached the face of the burly mirror doppelganger. At this moment, the burly mirror doppelganger finally moved. He opened his eyes, and two pitch-black rays of light shot out from his pupils, which turned into two pitch-black blade lights and slashed down. Two rays of saber light pierced through the void. In the next instant, all the fallen dark stars condensed by Long Yu were shattered and disappeared without a trace. In the end, this martial skill was still too weak. At Long Yu's current level, using this martial skill would no longer have any effect. However, Long Yu's goal wasn't to make the fallen dark stars pose a threat to his opponent. He just wanted to see what kind of divine characters his opponent used. Its shadow attribute divine characters as well. But I wonder if this mirrored doppelganger understands divine characters of other attributes, or even the 5 elements of absolute beginning power, Long Yu thought to himself. Of course, he knew that the current demigod Landslide had at least comprehended the absolute beginning power of water, but this mirror doppelganger might not necessarily be the case. Landslide had said that this mirror doppelganger was Landslide's form when he was still the 7-star Emperor. So at that time, maybe Landslide hadn't comprehended the absolute beginning power of water. Long Yu decided to fight hand-to-hand. After all, his body was very strong. If he fought hand-to-hand with his opponent, he might be able to improve the endless level martial skill, fighting Heaven's body, and further strengthen his body. This move could only be improved in battle. It was impossible to improve it by relying on other methods. Although the fleshly body of a demon cultivator was much stronger than that of a human, Long Yu was still very confident in the strength of his own fleshly body. Once he made this decision, he immediately used invisibility and then relied on balance control to completely hide his aura. This action made Long Yu's figure disappear from the eyes of the sturdy mirror image, which made the opponent's eyelids twitch. It was probably because he found that after Long Yu's figure disappeared, he couldn't detect Long Yu's whereabouts no matter what. Long Yu's current concealment technique was far beyond the standard of his martial Dao realm. Even a sovereign realm expert might not be able to detect his complete concealment, let alone the sturdy mirror image in front of him that was only at the level of the 7-star Emperor. Right now, Long Yu's concealment technique was still relatively weak. If he used the Book of Darkness to transform into nothingness, it would be even more impossible for the opponent to detect his presence. But right now, he only needed to use balance control. After all, Long Yu's balance control had already reached the peak, reaching the 9th level. After concealing his figure, Long Yu quietly approached the sturdy mirror image. Just as he was about to launch a sneak attack, the opponent suddenly roared, and the power of pitch-black divine runes wrapped around his body, exploding in all directions. This eruption of pitch-black divine runes was probably because the opponent had predicted that Long Yu was about to launch a sneak attack, so he directly used his innate mystic ability. The timing was perfect, and there was actually no mistake. If it had been any earlier, Long Yu wouldn't have been able to get close to the opponent. If it had been any later, Long Yu would have already launched a sneak attack. It just so happened that at this critical moment, the opponent actually relied on his intuition to explode with a burst of power. The pitch-black divine runes turned into ripples that spread in all directions, making Long Yu feel threatened. Do it! Berserker Fist Cannon. Although the other party's actions shocked Long Yu did not panic. Instead, he raised his fist, and all the Berserker divine runes on his body condensed on his fist. Then, he directly rushed into the other party's explosive divine rune ripple. With his strong physical body, he actually forcefully resisted the opponent's innate mystic ability. In an instant, he broke through the pitch-black divine runes ripples, and then punched the sturdy mirror images back. The Berserker divine runes struck swiftly, accompanied by a piercing sound, and hit the back of the sturdy mirror image, sending it flying. Without any pause, the sturdy mirror image shot out like a cannonball, flying dozens of feet in this deep blue void before stabilizing its body. However, Long Yu's attack came again. It was still a Berserker Fist Cannon, without any fancy moves. But this time, the opponent was prepared, and it was not so easy for Long Yu to hit it. A wave of black divine runes appeared behind the sturdy mirror image, condensing into a layer of black ice. This seemed to be a defensive martial skill. Moreover, it was a combination of shadow attribute divine runes and ice attribute divine runes, instantly forming a powerful defensive barrier. When Long Yu punched down, he immediately felt as if he had punched the hardest thing in the world. His entire fist went numb, and there was not even a crack on the black ice barrier. It's so strong. Long Yu's heart trembled, and an extremely solemn look appeared in his eyes. He could feel that Landslide's mirror image avatar had reached at least the 10th level of compatibility with the shadow attribute and ice attribute divine characters. This was something that Long Yu had never encountered before. Even he himself, apart from reaching level 11 compatibility with the shadow attribute divine text, had only reached level 7 or 8 compatibility with the other divine texts. 2 types of divine runes had reached level 10, and they were even combined to display a defensive technique. It was only natural that it would be so strong. When Long Yu punched down, he was the one who was slightly injured, and his fist was faintly numb. It must be known that Long Yu's current physical strength had been strengthened multiple times, and he was still injured from the impact. It could be seen how strong the opponent's defensive barrier was. It's because I haven't cultivated Berserker Heavenly Body to perfection. I'm only at the Great Accomplishment realm now, and its power is too weak in comparison. Moreover, my comprehension of the Berserker attribute divine runes is not high. Long Yu felt it was a pity. Right now, he still had to use the 9 nether divine runes to cause the greatest damage. Suddenly, his eyes turned cold, and he no longer tried to use Berserker Fist Cannon. Instead, he prepared to use other innate magical skills. This was because Berserker Heavenly Body's current power was not enough to break the opponent's defense. If he continued to use it, it would be a pure waste of power, and it might even give the opponent an opportunity to launch a wave of counterattacks. This Landslide's mirror doppelganger's defense was so strong, so his attack must be extraordinary. With the current strength of his physical body, Long Yu most likely could not resist it. Moreover, Long Yu had only cultivated Devil Dust Heart to the 2nd level, so his healing and body tissue regeneration speed was not particularly strong. He did not want to be seriously injured by this strong mirror doppelganger. In the next moment, Long Yu opened his mouth, and pitch-black 9 nether divine runes quickly condensed in his mouth. In the next moment, a burst of 9 nether dragon breath erupted. The pitch-black flames of the dragon breath instantly broke through the air and bombarded the tough defensive barrier like a wave. The dragon breath of 9 nether was arguably the most powerful move among Long Yu's innate magical skills. At this moment, it was used, and it immediately had an effect. Cracks immediately appeared on the tough defensive barrier, and then the cracks quickly spread to all directions. The barrier was made of the combination of the dark divine runes and the ice divine runes. It boasted a terrifying defensive ability, but it was completely unable to resist Long Yu's dragon breath of 9 nether at all. This was because Long Yu's dragon breath of the 9 underworlds was already very powerful. In addition, his compatibility with the shadow attribute divine text had reached the 11th level, and he had also comprehended a small portion of the revelation grade divine text of the 9 underworlds. When he used this move, ordinary cultivators of the same realm would definitely not be able to withstand it. Even the powerful defensive barrier that the demigod Landslide's mirror doppelganger had performed was somewhat vulnerable in front of Long Yu's dragon breath of 9 nether. After one attack, the barrier burst out and quickly split apart. Obviously, the damage of the dragon breath of 9 nether was beyond the strong mirror doppelganger's expectation. After a slight exclamation, he raised his hand and condensed a second defensive barrier. The barrier that was made of the combination of the shadow divine runes and the ice divine runes cost very little, and the strong mirror doppelganger could perform it easily. Originally, it was impossible for one defensive barrier to block the dragon breath of 9 nether, but now that 2 defensive barriers overlapped, it managed to block the dragon breath of 9 nether. In the end, although the 2 defensive barriers were shattered, the strong mirror doppelganger was not hurt at all. However, another dragon breath of 9 nether spurted out of Long Yu's mouth and arrived in the blink of an eye. The situation made the strong mirror doppelganger frown, because it was obvious that he would be at a disadvantage if the battle went on. After Long Yu's breath, he would have to condense 2 defensive barriers. Everybody knew that it was more advantageous for him. Therefore, the strong mirror doppelganger changed his approach in the next moment. He turned into a streak of black light and broke the void, trying to fly away. It was obvious that he was trying to avoid Long Yu's dragon breath of 9 nether. How could Long Yu let him do that? 8 trigrams heaven-suppressing technique. The first grade divine chains that he had prepared a long time ago were activated. 8 pillars of light in different colors immediately fell down and blocked the black streak of light that the strong mirror doppelganger turned into, suppressing it on the spot. Even though it was only for an instant, the black light burst out and shattered the 8 light pillars of the 8 trigrams, heaven-suppressing 8 trigrams. But the dragon breath of the 9 underworlds had already arrived and engulfed the black light. However, before long, you could breathe a sigh of relief. A terrifying aura pressure suddenly came from the place where the dragon breath of 9 nether erupted. It was like a tiger roaring in the forest, and the entire dark blue void was shrouded by this aura pressure. Long Yu also felt that the aura pressure was about to shock his body, but at this time, the martial arts secret method of the pure body played a role. The pure body, which had been cultivated to the 6th level, made Long Yu not affected by the opponent's aura pressure at this time. Swish, swish, swish. Chapter 1271. When the other party launched an attack and wanted to launch a wave of powerful attacks on Long Yu, he didn't know that Long Yu wasn't affected by his aura at all. Countless black streams of light swept over, but suddenly, Long Yu's entire body disappeared from where he stood, and all the black streams of light swept towards empty air. This situation made the sturdy mirror clone even more surprised, because he didn't expect that his aura didn't have any effect on Long Yu. This was the first time he encountered such a situation. In the past, when he used this move, even if the other party wasn't completely stunned, there would most likely be some fluctuations in the chi and blood of the other party, causing the power to be unstable and revealing flaws. But now, Long Yu really wasn't affected at all. When he was attacked, Long Yu directly turned into nothingness and disappeared from the scene, so he couldn't sense Long Yu's existence at all. Turn into nothingness and dodge the attack. In the state of nothingness, Long Yu constantly changed his position and soon escaped the attack range of the countless black streams of light. Then, he went around to another direction and opened his mouth to release another dragon breath of the 9 underworlds. As soon as this move appeared, the sturdy mirror clone immediately reacted. He turned around and roared furiously. A tiger roar came out, and a violent dark hurricane greeted Long Yu's dragon breath of the 9 underworlds. Obviously, this violent dark hurricane was another innate theurgy of the sturdy mirror clone, and it seemed to be a high-grade innate theurgy. Its power was comparable to the dragon breath of the 9 underworlds. After all, the dragon breath of the 9 underworlds was only the 3rd theurgy of Long Yu, and its basic power was still inferior to the following high-grade theurgies. It was normal for it to be comparable to the opponent's theurgy. The power of the 2 sides instantly intertwined, and an unparalleled and terrifying wave of power erupted. This wave of power directly exploded, and both Long Yu and the sturdy mirror clone were blasted back by dozens of meters, and each of them reached the edge of this dark blue space. On the other hand, the black tornado and the 9 underworld dragon breath were still colliding with each other. However, along with the passage of time, they'd finally started to weaken. In the time it took for sparks to fly off a flint, both sides had more or less tested each other's techniques. In the next moment, Long Yu was somewhat more familiar with the attribute of his opponent's divine rune power. Moreover, because of his balance control, he could see where his opponent's power was the weakest. Of course, Long Yu knew that the other party must have grasped many other types of divine rune power, but even so, he could quickly analyze the strength of the other powers. It's about time to give you some pressure. Long Yu thought to himself. Facing an opponent of the same cultivation level, he was very confident. He had never thought that he would lose. Now he was finally prepared to use his first trump card, the Nether Void Dragon Blade. The dark blue Void Spirit Dragon Blade flew out of Long Yu's inner world and instantly streaked across the void, stabbing in the direction of the sturdy mirror image. All of this happened in an instant. The Nether Void Dragon Blade was surrounded by the water element primordial power. It pierced through the void so quickly that the sturdy mirror image couldn't react at all. In the next moment, the Nether Void Dragon Blade pierced through his opponent's body, creating a hole in the sturdy mirror image's body. Although it was only a mirror image clone, this mirror image clone was like a real person. Bright red blood flowed from the wound. However, it was impossible to kill the sturdy mirror image just like that. In the next moment, the sturdy mirror image's muscles bulged, and the power of pitch-black divine runes covered his entire body. Among them, there was a snow-white light flickering where he was injured. It was the light element divine rune, and it was healing his injured body. It's the primordial power. Is this a combat weapon tempered by the primordial furnace? It's indeed so powerful. The robust mirror image was shocked when he saw the Void Spirit Dragon Dagger. It was truly too fast, and he, who was a 7-star Imperial Monarch like Long Yu, was utterly unable to keep up with the Void Spirit Dragon Dagger's footsteps. Therefore, he could only use stronger means than before. However, the pitch-black divine runes on his body became denser and denser, enveloping his entire body. At the same time, he emitted a terrifying aura. In this state, the sturdy mirror image seemed to have become very dangerous. Little Sue, be careful. Long Yu reminded him in his heart. He didn't stay idle either. He raised his hand and took out the unbounded combat weapon, the ancient dragon bone tower from his inner world. Next, he narrowed his eyes and hid inside the ancient dragon bone tower. The entire ancient dragon bone tower began to spin at high speed. This was a sign that he was about to use the Dragon Bone Break. Previously, when the ancient Dragon Bone Tower was an Archean combat weapon, Long Yu had used the Dragon Bone Break many times. It was definitely a very powerful means of attack, and its penetrative power was extremely strong. When the ancient Dragon Bone Tower appeared, Long Yu's aura in this aspect was no weaker than that of the demigod's mirror image. Moreover, as the Dragon Bone Break was used, the opponent's aura was almost drawn into the vicinity of the ancient Dragon Bone Tower. Little Sue, pincer attack. The next moment, the Dragon Bone Break condensed into a whirlwind and pierced through, while the Nether Void Dragon Blade chose to attack from another direction. The two powerful combat weapons attacked the sturdy mirror image at the same time. However, this pincer attack that Long Yu was very confident of did not have any effect as he had imagined. When the Nether Void Dragon Blade charged into the black fog around the mirror image, it felt as if it had entered another boundless space. It was as if there was no mirror image in there at all. It was as if there was only a cloud of black fog. The ancient Dragon Bone Pagoda quickly spun and pierced through the black fog. It even dispersed the black fog. However, after the black fog dispersed, the mirror image that was originally in it had completely disappeared. Of course, Long Yu did not think that the opponent had been killed by him. Be it the Nether Void Dragon Blade or the ancient Dragon Bone Tower, he did not feel anything strange at all. It was as if the two attacks had hit the air. Right, there's something strange about this black fog. Long Yu and Little Sue reacted almost at the same time. Due to the existence of balance control, it was impossible for the opponent to hide under Long Yu's eyes. Therefore, since the opponent had disappeared, it was most likely that it had become something else or had really gone to another space. The Nether Void Dragon Blade was still in the black fog, as if it had gone to another space. The ancient Dragon Bone Tower, on the other hand, pierced through the black fog and dispersed it, allowing Long Yu to sense some things more accurately. That's right. There are actually internal spaces in this black fog, and these spaces are very wide. I wonder which space the mirror image is hiding in. Long Yu felt that this was too troublesome. There were many internal spaces in this thick black fog, and there were at least thousands of them. Each internal space was like a boundless small world. Even when Long Yu's balance control was immersed in it, he could not detect such a vast area. I have to destroy these black fog spaces. Little Sue, can you do it? Long Yu continued to stay in the ancient dragon bone tower, and then connected his mind with Little Sue, asking her to try and think of a way. After all, Little Sue's body was filled with water-type primordial force, and her attainments in space were much stronger than Long Yu's. I'll try my best. The nether dragon blade shuttled back and forth in the black mist. Sometimes it would appear, and sometimes it would disappear into the inner space of the black mist. The water element absolute beginning power condensed into blades, constantly cutting the space power in the black mist. As the nether void dragon blade continued to cut, the amount of black fog continued to decrease. At this moment, a sudden change occurred. A ferocious tiger's roar suddenly came from a certain direction, and a terrifying mental strength suddenly surged, enveloping the entire ancient dragon bone tower. This ferocious tiger's roar was much stronger than the ferocious tiger's aura from before, and even Long Yu's mind was affected. This was mainly because the opponent had suddenly appeared, and Long Yu was not prepared at all. Even though he had activated his worldly purity body in time, he could not completely block the opponent's mental attack this time. More importantly, Long Yu still did not know where the opponent's mental attack came from. After the tiger's roar, the demigod's mirror clone did not immediately appear, but continued disappearing. Long Yu, on the other hand, suffered a bit of mental damage. Even his 6th level of the worldly purity body could not completely block it. Thankfully, Long Yu's damage was not very serious. If it were any other regular cultivator at the level of the 7-star Emperor, they probably would have collapsed on the ground and completely lost the ability to fight. It was only because Long Yu had cultivated the worldly purity body that his mental defense was so outstanding. Keep going. Disperse all the black fog, Long Yu said to the nether void dragon blade in his heart. At the same time, a solemn expression appeared in his eyes. The opponent's tactic was too shameless and despicable. The opponent had created thousands of independent spaces with the black fog without a sound. Then, he hid himself in them and launched a mental attack out of nowhere. It was the first time that Long Yu had seen such an approach. Although it was shameless and despicable, it was undoubtedly very effective. Even Long Yu suffered a minor setback under the opponent's move, and he was still in a dilemma. Although the nether void dragon blade could destroy dozens of such independent spaces and disperse a small part of the black fog with the power of the water element, it would still take a lot of time to completely disperse all the black fog here. In the next moment, Long Yu was fully focused on activating the secret technique of the worldly purity body in case of the enemy's unexpected mental attack. However, he did not expect that the enemy would adopt a different approach. Before Long Yu realized what was going on, he suddenly sensed the waves of the space behind him. Then a strong wind swept at him. He looked back, only to see a black shadow. Then a heavy shadow punch hit Long Yu's abdomen and blew him away. Chapter 1272. Long Yu had never expected the other party to be able to enter the ancient Dragon Bone Tower. The outer walls of the ancient Dragon Bone Tower had the effect of shielding space. Ordinary cultivators would not be able to teleport in unless they had some kind of spatial traversal technique. And now, the mirror image clone of a demigod clearly had such a technique. The other party's shadow punch landed on Long Yu's abdomen, sending him flying and crashing heavily into the internal space of the ancient Dragon Bone Tower. Fortunately, the ancient Dragon Bone Tower had been completely repaired. It was a supreme-grade, unbounded battle weapon, and on top of that, it had reached the level of divine fusion with Long Yu. He was just one step away from reaching the ultimate, unparalleled level. This allowed Long Yu to have a very strong tacit understanding with the ancient Dragon Bone Tower. Just as Long Yu was sent flying, the power of the ancient Dragon Bone Tower suddenly gathered and seeped out from the surrounding walls, surrounding the black mirror image clone that had invaded the ancient Dragon Bone Tower. Kill him. Long Yu stood up and turned around with a wave of his hand. The third-grade god formation, 9 Abyss, was activated immediately. 9 pitch-black spatial cracks appeared in the surroundings, and with the power of the ancient Dragonbone Tower, they slammed into the mirror image clone like waves. The next moment, the mirror image clone finally fell apart, scattering on the ground like a pile of loose sand. It turned into faint black smoke and gradually disappeared. This isn't the main body. Long Yu's heart skipped a beat. He was even more wary of the mirror image clone of a demigod. Clearly, the mirror image clone that had invaded his ancient Dragonbone Tower was not the main body, but a clone of clone. That was why it was so vulnerable. It did not even have a physical body, and was purely a body of energy condensed from shadow attribute divine runes. For some reason, Long Yu suddenly felt that the situation was very strange. The other party's technique was too confusing, and he did not know whether it was a martial art or something else. Although they did not have much destructive power, they were able to put a great deal of pressure on Long Yu's mind. This was because the clones seemed to be everywhere. They could even reach the interior of the ancient Dragonbone Tower. It was a little unbelievable. No matter what, Long Yu's top priority was to disperse the black fog. Then he might be able to find out which independent space the other party was hiding in. As long as he knew where the other party was, everything would be easy. Otherwise, Long Yu would really be at his wit's end. How could he fight the other party without even knowing where they were? At this moment, Long Yu finally knew how his enemies felt when he turned into nothingness or used balance control to hide himself. It was too frustrating. And now, of course, Long Yu could also hide. That way, neither side could do anything to the other. However, if this continued, it would be impossible for Long Yu to kill the other party, and he would not be able to complete this challenge. One had to know that Long Yu's goal was to kill his opponent. The mirror clone could naturally hide and not show himself. If Long Yu could not find him, Long Yu would not be able to pass the challenge. However, for Long Yu, hiding was an extremely stupid idea. In that case, little Sue, hurry up. Long Yu transmitted his thought. At the same time, he took out another battle weapon from his inner world. It was the Dragon Blood Sacred Diagram. The Dragon Blood Sacred Diagram was an unbounded upper-grade battle weapon. It was also a decent battle weapon that the Juyo Dragon Emperor had left behind for him. The main reason was that this battle weapon had a wide range of uses and could be used to deal with all kinds of situations. That was why the Juyo Dragon Emperor was willing to keep this battle weapon. And now, Long Yu remembered that there was such a diagram in the Dragon Blood Sacred Diagram that might be able to solve his current predicament. The name of that diagram was the Dragon Blood Heavens I diagram. After using this diagram, one's deduction ability and speed would be enhanced. Given Long Yu's current situation, it was obvious that he could not find the real body of the mirror clone with his naked eyes. His spiritual sense was also useless. After all, the space in the black fog was too vast and the range was too wide. It was too difficult to find the other party. Therefore, apart from waiting for the Nether Void Dragon Blade to disperse the black fog, the only other way was to use the method of deduction. As for the power of deduction, Long Yu didn't usually use it in battle. That was because the opponents he faced before had a much higher cultivation than him, and he generally didn't need to deduce the information of his opponents. But in this situation, using deduction was an excellent method. Especially since the Dragon Blood Heavens I diagram could increase Long Yu's deduction ability and speed, it would be much easier to use it to deduce the position of an opponent of the same level. Of course, in order to avoid being disturbed by the other party's strange methods, Long Yu did not immediately start the deduction. Instead, he summoned 5 Hunters of the Nine Abyss and had them surround him for protection. Only then did Long Yu start to deduce the other party's information with peace of mind. Dragon Blood Heavens I diagram. Long Yu waved the Dragon Blood Sacred Diagram, and a blood-red image of the eye of the god dragon appeared. Blood-red light flashed, and the power of deduction was imbued into Long Yu's body. With the help of the Dragon Blood Heavens I diagram, Long Yu felt that the power of deduction he could use had increased by more than 3 times, and it was still increasing. The Dragon Blood Heaven's Eye diagram can increase a cultivator's deduction ability by 3 times, but the Dragon Blood Sacred diagram is an infinity-level weapon. If it explodes, it can even increase by 10 times. Long Yu thought to himself. Soon, the growth of his deduction ability slowed down, until it stopped at the point where it had increased by 8 times. This Dragon Blood Heaven's Eye diagram had actually increased his deduction ability by 8 times, which was quite a pleasant surprise. Next, let's see if I can deduce the location of the Demigod Senior's mirror image. Long Yu thought in his heart. He immediately concentrated his energy and began to use the power of deduction. It was also at this time that a black shadow suddenly appeared behind Long Yu. It was another doppelganger of an avatar. Before Long Yu could react, the 5 Tartarus hunters that Long Yu had summoned had already made their move. The one closest to Long Yu swung its scimitar, and immediately, a beam of Tartarus blade light tore through the void and directly cut the mirror image in half. Then, more beams of Tartarus blade light slashed down, completely cutting the mirror image into pieces. There was no chance for Long Yu to do anything else. The Tartarus hunters were now Long Yu's trump card. They were not like before, when they were just there for show. After being upgraded to an Emperor Path Mystique, the Tartarus hunters that Long Yu summoned could not only travel through some special environments, but their destructive power had also increased significantly. Whether it was a real saber or a mental saber, the actual destructive power and the ability to attack illusions were at least 3 times higher than when he used Emperor Path Mystique. Therefore, after a few slashes, the Black Shadow was directly cut into pieces. If the opponent wasn't a condensed form of energy, but a real cultivator, then using the Heartblade third slash would be even more effective. He would be able to drag the opponent into an illusion in an instant. Moreover, even if he used it against a lower-level Sovereign Realm opponent, it would still be very effective. After the Black Shadow was taken care of, Long Yu did not pay much attention to it. He began to concentrate on gathering the deduction ability and deducing the location of the Demigod Landslide's mirror image. There was a lot of information for Long Yu to deduce, because the dark purple space was already filled with his and the opponent's aura. As long as he followed the aura and used the mysterious deduction ability, he would be able to deduce the opponent's location and some other information after spending some time. As for how long it would take, Long Yu was not sure. The time required for the deduction was completely determined by the strength of the 2 parties' deduction ability. Now, as soon as Long Yu used the deduction ability, he already felt that the opponent was using the deduction ability to resist. However, now that Long Yu's deduction ability had been enhanced by the Dragon Blood Sky's eye painting by 8 times, he clearly felt that the opponent's deduction ability was not as strong as his. In merely the time for an incense stick to burn, Long Yu's ability of deduction had faintly crushed all the deduction defenses of his opponent, and then he swiftly obtained his opponent's information. The effects of the Dragon Blood Heaven's Eye diagram were truly heaven-defying. It allowed Long Yu to perform divination with ease. Not only did his divination abilities increase, but he could also use the most important aura to perform divination. With the Dragon Blood Heaven's Eye diagram, his overall divination speed increased by more than 10-fold. Got it. Very soon, Long Yu received the opponent's information. Then, he was overjoyed. Without any hesitation, he directly drove the Void Nether Dragon Dagger to the opponent's location. Water-type Absolute beginning power swirled in the air, dispersing the black mist once again. The independent space hidden within the black mist was naturally destroyed. After receiving the information from Long Yu, the Void Nether Dragon Dagger destroyed the independent space where the opponent was hiding. Then, the Landslide Demigod's 7-star Emperor-level mirror image appeared in front of them again. The mirror image revealed a hint of surprise on its dark face. It raised its head and looked at the enormous dragon skeleton tower that crossed the entire black fog. It did not expect Long Yu to have such powerful deduction ability. It did not intend to hide in another independent space of the black fog, because since Long Yu had already deduced its information, it would be much easier and more relaxed to deduce its information than before. There was no point in continuing to hide. The Void Nether Dragon Dagger did not stop at all. It directly gathered the primordial force of water and passed to the opponent's side, trying to launch an attack. Void Burial. Chapter 1273. Void Burial was a technique that was created when Long Yu and the Nether Void Dragon Blade were in unparalleled harmony. He had used it against many opponents before, and the effect was impressive. Now, the Nether Void Dragon Blade had been smelted into the absolute beginning divine grade in the absolute beginning furnace. At the same time, it was also in unparalleled harmony with Long Yu. The power of this technique was even more terrifying. To put it simply, the power of the Void Burial that the Nether Void Dragon Blade used now was even greater than the Joyo Dragon Emperor's innate technique that Long Yu used when he fought against the Golden Moon Demonic Clan's demonic ancestors, Origin Spirit. Although the Joyo Dragon Emperor's innate technique was powerful, its power was naturally weakened a lot when it was used by Long Yu. Now that Long Yu's martial realm had increased, the power of the Joyo Dragon Emperor's innate technique had also increased a lot. Therefore, the Void Burial of the Nether Void Dragon Blade could be said to be one of Long Yu's most powerful techniques. It was comparable to the innate techniques of the Joyo Dragon Emperor. The water absolute beginning power instantly condensed into a turbulent whirlpool. The deep blue water turned into waves and crazily surged towards the demigod's mirror image clone. In the next moment, the terrifying, tearing power of the Void Burial exploded, finally showing Long Yu's terrifying strength. At this moment, the demigod's mirror image was truly shocked. Such a terrifying attack was not something that an ordinary lesser dominator could use. It had even reached the level of an intermediate dominator. Although the real battle strength of the demigod's mirror image was also at the level of a lesser dominator or even an intermediate dominator, he really did not expect that Long Yu would have such powerful battle strength. Originally, Landslide also thought that Long Yu was only slightly stronger than cultivators of the same realm. Of course, he was not stronger than him in the past. Only now did he realize that everything was wrong. Compared to him in the past, how was Long Yu any weaker? It was definitely not a coincidence that he was able to make great contributions in this battle and receive a first-class honor badge. Not only was his combat awareness outstanding, but he was also extremely lucky and had a fortuitous encounter. Even his martial arts talent was extraordinary. When Nether Burial was used, Landslide finally had a whole new level of respect for Long Yu. He didn't expect that Long Yu could really kill the mirror clone and get the opportunity to join a demigod college. After all, it wasn't that easy to join a demigod college. One might not be able to meet a member of the demigod college every 10 years, not to mention in the territory of the human race and the demon race. The probability was so low that even a demigod like Landslide did not have much hope. Now that he had challenged Long Yu to join the college, he just wanted to try. However, he didn't expect that he would get a pleasant surprise. With Long Yu's Nether Burial, it was not impossible for him to enter a demigod college. Although he might not be able to defeat the mirror clone of a demigod, he had given Landslide a pleasant surprise. As for the result, he would have to keep watching. Facing the terrifying, destructive power of Nether Burial, the mirror clone would probably be seriously injured even if it didn't take any measures. Therefore, the mirror clone finally broke out at this time. First, the mirror clone turned into a giant black tiger, which was Landslide's true form. The strength of a demonic cultivator who turned into his true form would be greatly improved, at least by 50%. In a battle of equal strength, this was a natural advantage for demonic cultivators over human cultivators. After transforming into its true form, the mirror avatar directly opened its mouth and roared. Its whole body seemed to be covered with a thick layer of pitch-black scales. On this layer of pitch-black scales, there were blue ice crystals. It seemed that it was another defensive method that combined the shadow attribute divine runes and ice attribute divine runes. However, this time, the combination of the pitch-black scales and the blue ice crystals seemed to be different from the previous defensive barrier. This combination of structures allowed the defensive strength of the black scales to reach an extremely high level, but correspondingly, it consumed a lot more power. In just an instant, the mirror clone that had turned into a giant black tiger was covered with black and blue scale armor. Its defense ability instantly reached the peak of the 7-star Emperor's level. The Void Burial's dark blue energy whirlpool swept over and wrapped around the black tiger like a dumpling. Then, the entire void was filled with dark blue water element power that roared and danced. It was like a storm on the ocean, destroying everything within its range. At this moment, the ancient Dragonbone Tower was controlled by Long Yu to retreat away from the area where the power of Nether Burial was erupting. Even the ancient Dragonbone Tower, an unbounded level weapon, would probably need some time to get out if it was dragged into the Nether Burial. Although it wouldn't be destroyed if it was dragged, it would be a little troublesome if the demonic god mirror clone didn't die. It would give the opponent an opportunity instead. Therefore, Long Yu retreated a little, but the vortex of Nether Burial continued to spread and soon filled the entire space. There was nowhere for Long Yu to hide, so he simply gave up. After all, the water elemental force was created by the Nether Dragonblade. Even though it would be very turbulent, it wouldn't cause any damage to the ancient Dragonbone Tower. Long Yu stood inside the ancient Dragonbone Tower. In the vortex of Nether Burial, he was like a small boat on a lake, swaying nonstop. It took about half an hour before he finally stabilized, and the power of Nether Burial finally disappeared. Since the entire space wasn't very large, the explosion of Nether Burial this time could be said to have swept across the entire space. The closer one was to the center, the more destructive it was. When everything was settled, Long Yu found that the power in the entire space seemed to have become a little unstable. It must be known that this independent space was created by a demigod, and it was specially made for him to challenge his mirror image clone. The power of Nether Dragonblade's Nether Burial was especially terrifying at the center of the explosion. It actually messed up the water elemental force there. It wasn't hard to imagine that if the Nether Dragonblade had awakened to the 8th or 9th level of the absolute beginning divine quality, this Nether Burial could even destroy more than half of the entire space. This was the terrifying power of the Nether Dragonblade, and it was all because of the power of the water elemental force. The power of the 5 elements was the most original power in this world, and it was more powerful than the power of any divine text. The entire space was made up of the water elemental force, so when the two powers of the same origin collided, it was only natural that there would be some explosive consequences. However, what made Long Yu feel pity was that when the Nether Burial finally stopped, in the center of the entire space, the black tiger monster that the mirror clone had turned into was not shredded into pieces. Instead, it was curled up there. Although the black and blue scales on its body were basically broken, it could be seen that the Nether Burial did not cause too much damage to it. This was really out of Long Yu's expectation. It's so powerful. Senior Landslide's physical strength has already reached such a level when he was only at the level of the 7-star Emperor. Long Yu's eyes immediately widened. If Long Yu had been there, he definitely wouldn't have been able to withstand the Nether Burial's explosion for too long. At least, he wouldn't have been able to withstand it with his physical strength alone. But now, the black tiger monster that the mirror clone had transformed into had done it. Although the black and blue scales on its body were broken, its body wasn't too badly injured. Impressive, impressive. The giant black tiger's body gradually stretched out, shaking off all the remaining scales on its body. Its pair of tiger eyes revealed a sense of contentment. Obviously, it was quite satisfied with Long Yu's move just now. To be able to use such a powerful move, Long Yu wouldn't lose to almost all the cultivators of the same level. In other words, Long Yu was basically standing at the peak of the cultivators of the same level. Below the ruler's secret realm, Long Yu could be said to be invincible. Even if it was an ordinary lower ruler or some weaker intermediate ruler, Long Yu would probably be able to kill them. This surprised Landslide, and then he transmitted through the mirror clone. However, if you want to enter the Demigod College, this alone isn't enough. Unless you can defeat this mirror clone of mine, you won't be qualified to enter the demigod college. Among the 7 demigods of the demon race, the main body can be said to be the weakest when it was at the level of the Emperor. If you can't even defeat the main body's mirror clone, then it's even more impossible for you to defeat the mirror clone of the other demigods of the demon race at the same level. As Landslide's telepathic thoughts were transmitted to Long Yu's head, Long Yu nodded slowly, and his eyes became more and more serious. He didn't expect the demigods to be so strong at the beginning, and this mirror clone of Landslide was actually the weakest among the 7-star Emperor. Didn't it mean that the other 6 demigod seniors would be even more difficult to test Long Yu? Of course, it didn't mean that Landslide was the weakest among the 7 demigods. This was only the strength of the demigods when they were at the level of the 7-star Emperor. It didn't mean that it would be even more difficult for the other 6 demigod seniors to test Long Yu. This is really exciting. I've never seen such a strong opponent at the same level. Today I must defeat him. A strong desire to fight emerged in Long Yu's heart. The whole space was filled with a tense atmosphere. Then he was ready to perform one of his strongest skills, the ancient god forbidden skill, killing prison of 4 symbols. Long Yu had only used the killing prison of 4 symbols once or twice before, but it worked every time. Now that Long Yu's martial arts realm had improved, would there be a big change if he performed this ancient god forbidden skill again? Killing prison of 4 symbols. Die. Chapter 1274. The 4 symbols killing prison appeared once again. Countless lines of death appeared endlessly in this space. The mirror clone of the Landslide demigod subconsciously tried to dodge, but the lines of death appeared so fast that they tied up his body in the blink of an eye. At this time, the mirror avatar was already in the form of a giant black tiger. It was many times larger than when it was in human form. The lines of death easily entangled it, and then the power of death began to rapidly corrode its body. Long Yu did not have a deep understanding of the 4 symbols killing prison, but he could already use some magical power of death to corrode his opponent and kill them. When he was surrounded by the White Feather Demonic Clan and the other 3 demonic clans, Long Yu used this move and entangled and killed more than 10 lesser rulers and intermediate rulers, which shocked everyone at the scene. Although the power was provided by the 4 ancient palaces at that time, Long Yu's martial arts realm was much higher than before. Even without the power of the 4 ancient palaces, the 4 symbols killing prison's destructive power was definitely not weak. Countless lines of death completely entangled the mirror doppelganger. The power of death continuously corroded its body, bringing great destructive power to the mirror doppelganger. Landslide, who was observing the battle from the outside, frowned slightly when he sensed the aura of death. Even he had never encountered such a strong aura of death. Judging from this move, it should be an ancient god forbidden technique. This kid is really powerful, as expected of the inheritance of the Jiuyo Dragon Emperor. This ancient god forbidden technique must have been inherited from the inheritance of the Jiuyo Dragon Emperor. Landslide thought to himself. He was even more amazed by Long Yu's strength. He knew about the ancient god forbidden technique, but he had never seen it before, let alone practiced it. Even a demonic god like Landslide had only heard of the ancient god forbidden technique, but had never seen it before. One could imagine how high the level of the ancient god forbidden technique was. Now, when Long Yu performed the ancient god forbidden technique, the knowledgeable Landslide immediately guessed that it was the ancient god forbidden technique. Although he had never seen it before, he had heard of it. Most importantly, Landslide was very familiar with techniques other than the ancient god forbidden skill. The 4-aspect killing prison move that appeared now, its aura and form were completely unlike any other techniques that he knew of. He was able to come to this conclusion after a slight deduction. After confirming that it was a forbidden skill of the ancient gods, Landslide looked even more solemn. At first, he was not sure whether Long Yu was qualified to join the demigod college, but now, with this forbidden skill of the ancient gods, nobody could stop him from joining the demigod college. I wonder to what extent this kid has cultivated the ancient god-forbidden skill. I'm very interested. Let me look forward to it. Doppelganger, Shadow State, Absolute Defense. Following Landslide's thought, the mirror image avatar that was fighting with Long Yu in the independent space suddenly displayed a defensive method. Even though it was entangled by countless lines of death, the black tiger's main body suddenly changed. The color of its body became even darker. Not even the slightest light could be reflected. The entire black tiger entered a special state. Its flesh, bones, and blood all turned into a black crystal-like substance at this moment. This was the Shadow State's absolute defense. This was the strongest defensive method that Landslide had practiced when he was still the 7-star Emperor. In order to resist Long Yu's ancient god-forbidden technique, he didn't hesitate and let the mirror clone use it. Ancient god-forbidden technique for symbols killing prison against absolute defense of the shadow form. The power of both sides was far from what a normal cultivator at the level of the 7-star Emperor could display. In such a confrontation, even a lower-level dominator could only retreat obediently. Otherwise, they would definitely be sucked in and crushed into pieces. Long Yu could easily kill some ordinary lower-level dominators with just the 4 symbols killing prison. However, the 4 symbols killing prison consumed a lot of power, so it definitely couldn't be used as a normal combat method. The 4 symbols killing prison condensed countless lines of death that entangled the black tiger's main body. Then, the aura of death continuously corroded its body. However, at this moment, the black tiger's body had turned into extremely hard black crystals. These black crystals were 10 times stronger than the black ice crystals that the Ling family condensed before. The aura of death continuously invaded and pulled everything it encountered into the state of death. It could make every part of a living being fall into the death prison. But now, the black tiger's body had turned into black crystals. These black crystals no longer belonged to the category of living beings, so it didn't matter to them. Absolute defense of the shadow form actually resisted the corrosion of the 4 symbols killing prison in such an unbelievable way. Seeing this, Long Yu's expression instantly changed. These lines of death constantly emitted the aura of death, which consumed a lot of his power. He was a little surprised that there was no effect at all. However, on second thought, he directly retracted these lines of death because continuing would not have any effect. Instead, it would completely exhaust his power. The opponent's defensive method was really too strong. Moreover, it could also be used to conceal his tracks and disguise himself. The demigod mirror clone in this state did not have any aura of life at all. Even if he used his spiritual sense and deduction power to investigate, he would not be able to detect that it was a living being. It was conceivable that if Landslide used this move himself, the effect would be the same. After all, this mirror clone was a miniature version of the strength of the 7-star Emperor. As expected, there are countless miraculous martial skills in this world. Only by experiencing more battles and experience will one be able to grow. Now, compared to some seniors, even if I'm at the same level as them, I'm afraid I'm still not their match. After all, they have much more battle experience than me. Thinking in his heart, Long Yu was filled with even more reverence for this world. Then, without thinking too much, he opened his mouth and spat out a dragon's breath of the 9 underworlds. The pitch-black flames with traces of the 9 underworlds' divine text of the 9 underworlds swept over and shrouded the black tiger crystal. The next moment, Long Yu found that his dragon's breath of the 9 underworlds did not even cause a little bit of damage to it. He could not help but secretly click his tongue. The defense of the shadow form's absolute defense was really a little too terrifying. After all, this mirror clone was in existence like him, a 7-star Emperor who had not stepped into the ruler's secret realm. In this case, it was impossible for Long Yu to use conventional methods to deal with it. The whole challenge was about to come to an end, so he could use all the trump cards that he needed to use. The Nether Void Dragon Blade had even used Void Burial, but it was unable to destroy the Black Tiger's true form. The four symbols death prison could destroy any living creature, but it had no effect on this dark mirror image avatar. After thinking about it, Long Yu could only use the Juyo Dragon Emperor's innate mystique. But before that, Long Yu had another method he wanted to try, and that was the ancient Dragon Bone Tower. Dragon Bone Break, kill. Long Yu activated the ancient Dragon Bone Tower. The terrifying power of a top-tier, unbounded combat weapon was finally on full display. Previously, Long Yu had activated the Dragon Bone Break, but it had crashed into the opponent's black fog and did not have any effect. But now, the opponent had turned into a black tiger crystal, and it had undoubtedly become the best target for the ancient Dragon Bone Tower. It had to be said that the direct, destructive power of the Dragon Bone Break far exceeded any of Long Yu's other methods. After all, it was a top-tier, unbounded combat weapon, and Long Yu had already fused with it to the level of spirit fusion. It was very easy for it to explode with power that was several times stronger than before. This time, the Dragon Bone Break exploded with 5 times the destructive power, and in the blink of an eye, it spun rapidly and rushed towards the black tiger crystal. Even though it was known as the Shadow Form Absolute Defense, it was still unable to withstand the explosive power of the Dragon Bone Tower's strongest attack. The 5 times destructive power gathered at the top of the ancient Dragon Bone Tower, and through the high-speed rotation, it was instantly transmitted into the black tiger crystal. There was even a hint of Revelation Grade 9 Serenity's divine text within the divine text, and it burst out from the black tiger's body. The next moment, the earth shook, and the entire space seemed to tremble. The black tiger crystal began to disintegrate from the inside, and cracks kept appearing on its surface. At that moment, the mirror image clone seemed to sense that something was wrong. It wanted to switch back from the absolute defense of shadow form, but it was already too late. The absolute destructive power of the Dragon Bone Break was extremely terrifying, and the ancient Dragon Bone Tower itself was made of an extremely tough material. Now that it was completely repaired, it was even more difficult to destroy. The two sides collided at high speed, and cracks instantly appeared on the opponent's body, while the ancient Dragon Bone Tower was completely undamaged. It was obvious who was stronger and who was weaker. All kinds of methods reinforce and counteract each other. Although the Dragon Bone Break isn't fast enough and can be easily dodged, it's still very effective in situations like this that require absolute destructive power. Long Yu thought to himself. In his eyes, the black tiger crystal gradually shattered and soon completely disintegrated. Under the bombardment of the Dragon Bone Break, which was 5 times more powerful, it quickly shattered into thousands of pieces. At this point in the battle, Long Yu had clearly grasped the initiative, while Landslide's mirror image doppelganger clearly did not grasp any rebirth or rapid healing methods. The thousands of pieces of the black giant tiger's body drifted away, completely unable to keep up with Long Yu's speed of annihilating it. The dragon breath of the 9 Serenities kept erupting from Long Yu's mouth, and waves of pitch-black dragon breath flames completely burned the pieces. After losing the ability to fight, Long Yu could just use the Juyo Dragon Emperor to completely destroy the other party. I should have already won this battle. Chapter 1275. Long Yu had undoubtedly won this battle. Although the ancient Dragon Bone Pagoda had its limitations, it could unleash extremely powerful might under certain circumstances. Every method had its own suitable environment and conditions. Long Yu had a rather deep understanding of this, so he could use all kinds of methods flexibly in battle. Originally, Long Yu had planned to use the Juyo Dragon Emperor's innate abilities, but since the ancient Dragon Bone Pagoda could solve the problem, there was no need to use those abilities. After all, using those abilities would cause great harm to the Netherworld realm. Right now, the entire Netherworld realm had become completely chaotic due to the previous wave of space-time turbulence. It was said that the wreckage of other small worlds could be used to repair the Netherworld realm, but the wreckage of the small worlds that Long Yu and Red Oriole had obtained did not have any wreckage of the shadow attribute, so there was no way they could be used to repair the Netherworld realm. If he used the innate abilities of other Geo-Dragon Emperor, it could easily cause even greater damage, and then the Netherworld realm would not be able to be repaired. I wonder how Red Oriole is doing. Long Yu thought to himself. Then he felt a wave of water-type primordial energy surround him, gradually sending him out of the independent space. The independent space formed by water-type primordial energy quickly disappeared, and when Long Yu came out, he saw a landslide waiting for him outside with a smile. Not bad. Long Yu, your strength has exceeded my expectations. Now you have the right to join the Demigod Institute, but not now. There are still 3 months until the next academic year of the Demigod Institute opens. You could do whatever you want in these 3 months. After 3 months, I will bring you to the location of the Demigod Institute. Landslide laughed and explained to Long Yu. All right, that means I still have 3 months. Long Yu nodded and began to ponder. 3 months was enough for him to do a lot of things. At the very least, it would not be a problem for him to enter the ruler's secret realm. Red Oriole still hasn't come out. Long Yu asked when he thought of this. She's in a bitter fight right now. After all, she's facing a first-stage sovereign realm mirror image. Her main body is already very strong at that time. Landslide said proudly. Even the princess of the Blood Demon clan will have a hard time winning this battle if she can't awaken the divine absolute beginning grade to level 9. So dangerous. Long Yu couldn't help being somewhat astonished. The 9th layer's divine grade absolute beginning awakening was a level that even ordinary 7th phase great rulers might not be able to achieve, as expected of an expert in the demigod level. Even before he stepped into the demigod level, he was already dominating the trainers of his level. One had to know that with Red Oriole's strength, she wouldn't feel any pressure dealing with an ordinary first-stage great ruler. But now, if he did not break through, he would not be able to win this battle. Long Yu did not think too much. Only Red Oriole could decide her own battle. Long Yu could not help her no matter what. Of course, he hoped that Red Oriole could win and go to the Demigod College with him. That's right. Since we have nothing to do right now, why don't you try a new challenge? Suddenly, Landslide squinted his eyes and smiled at Long Yu. He seemed to be up to no good. A new challenge. Long Yu was a bit puzzled. That's right. I've created a lower-level sovereign realm mirror image. You could try fighting it. I feel that you haven't used your full strength just now. Perhaps you can give it a try? Landslide's eyes flashed with a strange light. He seemed to have unusual expectations for Long Yu. This, Senior, you think too highly of me. Long Yu blushed with shame. To be honest, I could barely defeat the mirror image that was at the same level as me just now. I almost used all my methods. If it was a lower-level sovereign realm mirror image, I definitely wouldn't be a match for it. Long Yu knew his own limits. If it was an ordinary lower-level sovereign, Long Yu would not be afraid. But if it was a lower-level sovereign realm mirror image, Long Yu would definitely not be a match for it. However, if Senior is willing, this Junior is willing to give a try. Before Landslide could speak, Long Yu's expression changed. He chuckled. This kind of opportunity is hard to come by. I also want to know how strong Senior was when he was a lower-level sovereign. After all, he was about to step into the sovereign secret realm. He was only one step away. It would be beneficial for him to experience the strength of a lower-level sovereign realm mirror image. You said it yourself. Haha, come. Mountain Bender was a little disappointed when he heard Long Yu's rejection, but when he heard Long Yu agree to the battle, he laughed heartily. Didn't I say, there's no harm in having a battle? Who wouldn't be willing? But you have to be careful. After entering the sovereign secret realm, my strength has increased by leaps and bounds. Compared to that 7-star monarch's mirror image, my main body was much stronger when I was a lower sovereign. The difference between the two of us is far greater than the increase in strength of an ordinary person from a 7-star monarch to a lower sovereign. Long Yu remembered these words in his heart. Although he wasn't confident that he could defeat his opponent, he couldn't just give up. Otherwise, what would be the point of beating him? No matter what, he had to persevere for a while. Long Yu thought to himself, then nodded his head, waiting for the landslide to create another independent space. The water element power of the absolute beginning continued to condense, and an entrance to the independent space appeared beside Long Yu. Then, I'm going, Long Yu said to Landslide. He turned around and stepped into the independent space. He felt the water element origin energy surrounding him, and he was sent into a deep blue space. He wasn't unfamiliar with this scene. This independent space was exactly the same as the last time. The only difference was that the mirror image in front of Long Yu was a lower-level sovereign secret realm existence. Just from the aura alone, one could tell that the opponent was much stronger than the Seven-Star Emperor's mirror image. They weren't on the same level at all. The pressure that Long Yu had to endure increased. Before the battle even started, cold sweat was already dripping down his forehead. Just by standing in front of Long Yu, the mirror avatar made Long Yu feel as if he was facing a mountain, and this mountain could crush him at any time. He was like a sapling under the mountain, appearing so weak and fragile. This is too difficult, Long Yu gritted his teeth. His opponent's aura was endless. He suddenly raised his hand, and a terrifying power spread out. This was the strength of a sovereign secret realm expert. Although this mirror image was only a lower-level sovereign secret realm expert, Long Yu felt that this mirror image was much more terrifying than a middle-level sovereign secret realm expert. In terms of aura, it had already reached the upper-level sovereign secret realm. After all, it was a black tiger demonic cultivator. Demonic cultivators had an advantage in aura. Many of their divine abilities were related to aura suppression and intimidation. Therefore, it wasn't strange for his aura to reach the peak. Long Yu couldn't bear the pressure and started fighting. He was very confident in his own methods. Even if he couldn't defeat his opponent, he should be fine. Little Void, go! Void Burial erupted instantly, and the water element primordial power formed a huge dark blue whirlpool that engulfed the mirror image clone. In the next moment, the mirror image's body erupted with pitch-black darkness attribute divine runes. These darkness attribute divine runes had an incomparably tyrannical corrosive effect. Even the burial void formed by the water element origin energy was slowly corroding away. Although the strength of both sides was different, the mirror image was still a lower-level sovereign secret realm expert. Its basic strength was many times stronger than Long Yu's. The difference in strength had already exceeded the difference between the darkness attribute divine runes and the water element origin energy. This was why the mirror image was able to corrode the water element origin energy. Very soon, before Void Burial could even be unleashed, it was corroded away by the other party. Long Yu's move had actually failed to do anything at all. This was also because Long Yu's Nether Void Dragon Blade had yet to awaken. If he could awaken it a few times, the power of the Burial Void would increase by at least 10 times. This situation wouldn't have happened. However, right now, Long Yu clearly couldn't awaken the Nether Void Dragon Blade. He could only try using other methods. However, before he could do anything, the mirror image suddenly erupted with a tiger's roar. With an unparalleled aura, it covered the place where Long Yu was. Long Yu's pure world body activated immediately. It enveloped his entire body and instantly clashed with the opponent's tiger's roar. Long Yu had endured this move before. However, under the effect of the pure world body, he wasn't affected at all. But now, the opponent's martial path realm had increased by 1 level. He had stepped into the lower level sovereign secret realm. His basic strength had instantly increased by several times. Even the strength of the aura suppression had increased by several times. Even with the protection of the 6th level of the pure world body, Long Yu felt his mind tremble. At this moment, he couldn't think of anything. Immediately after, the pure world body pulled him back from his stunned state. However, even if it was only for an instant, it was enough for the opponent to do many things. Countless spatial divine characters swept over from all directions. They condensed into spatial blades that cut through Long Yu's body and embedded themselves into his flesh. Even with Long Yu's current physical strength, he couldn't withstand the opponent's attack. Countless bloody wounds instantly bloomed on his body. Tiger's roar in the forest, aura suppression. Long Yu wanted to make a move. However, at this moment, another aura suppression descended from the sky. It forcefully shook Long Yu until he vomited blood. He couldn't move anymore. Chapter 1276. Long Yu was completely stunned by the opponent's combat power. The opponent's control method was too strong. The main thing was that the aura was so strong that it could directly intimidate the depths of a person's soul. Even the world-cleansing body could only block a small part of the aura. The majority of the aura was directly intimidated into Long Yu's mind. Perhaps it was because Long Yu's pure world body was not strong enough, but there was no doubt that Long Yu had already lost. This was because he could not move, and the strength of his physical body was not particularly outstanding. It was only slightly stronger than ordinary cultivators. It was impossible for him to withstand the storm of attacks from his opponent. I lost. Long Yu had no choice but to admit defeat. This was one of the few times he admitted defeat since he stepped on the path of martial arts. And it could even be said to be the only time. In the past, even when facing opponents who were much stronger than him, he did not admit defeat. For example, against the 3 demigod aliens, Long Yu could rely on some tricks to fight with the opponent and then fight for a chance of survival. But right now, both sides were only exchanging pointers. Any tricks or schemes would be useless. They were competing purely in terms of strength. In such a situation, Long Yu had no other choice but to admit defeat. The opponent was too strong, so strong that even Long Yu was completely shocked, and there was no possibility that he could defeat the opponent. Of course, if Long Yu used the innate magic of the Juyo Dragon Emperor, he might be able to fight with the opponent, but for Long Yu, it was unnecessary. It wasn't worth it to risk the collapse of the Netherworld realm just for a spar. Of course, the most important thing was that even if Long Yu managed to defeat the mirror clone, he wouldn't get any other rewards. So why bother? He had already obtained the qualification to enter the Demigod College. Even if he defeated the mirror clone of the inferior ruler, Long Yu would not get any more benefits, so there was no need to fight so hard. He just wanted to try and experience how strong the opponent was, and now that he had finally experienced it, there was no need to continue fighting. The other party had such a powerful aura and deterrence ability. Unless Long Yu turned into nothingness and hid in the void, he would definitely be controlled to death by the other party. If he continued to hide in the void, it would be impossible for him to kill his opponent. Once Long Yu ran out of power, he would become a lamb waiting to be slaughtered, unable to resist at all. If this was a battle in the wild, Long Yu could escape. However, he was restricted to this independent space, so Long Yu could not escape. He could only choose to admit defeat. All this while, Long Yu had been fighting those a higher level than him, and he had constantly won. Sometimes, even some opponents who seemed much stronger would fall at his hands. For example, when Huang Xiaolong had used the 9 nether prison steel to kill several Sovereign Realm experts, he was different from the rest. But now, Long Yu finally knew that his strength was not the strongest. Even if he broke through and stepped into the Lesser Sovereign Realm, he would definitely not be a match for the mirror clone in front of him. That's right, even if they were in the same realm, Long Yu was not a match for his opponent. He could feel that the suppression of his opponent's aura was not the strongest. If Long Yu was in a Lesser Sovereign Realm, his opponent's suppression of his aura would still affect him greatly. Under such circumstances, Long Yu could only admit defeat. There was no point in continuing the fight. Haha, I didn't expect you to admit defeat so easily. I thought you had some other tricks up your sleeve. Landslide sent Long Yu out from the independent space, then laughed out loud. No, I really don't. No matter what, I am not a match for Senior's mirror clone. The gap is too big. Long Yu shook his head helplessly. And it's good that you can see the truth. Even though you are strong, your martial realm is still too low. You haven't truly grown. Sometimes, when you meet an opponent, you can't fight head-on. Retreating is also a normal choice. As Landslide spoke, he patted Long Yu's shoulder with a smile. Of course, you know what I'm saying even if I don't say it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have created such good conditions for us to kill the 3 demigod aliens one by one. Thank you for your praise, Senior. Long Yu said with narrowed eyes. What I said is the truth. Landslide shook his head and smiled. Coincidentally, your woman is coming out soon. The situation is more or less settled. Not long after you enter the independent space, she awakened the absolute beginning divine grade to the 9th level. With this, there's no longer any doubt as to who will win. That's good news. Long Yu nodded. He was also happy for Red Oriole. If Red Oriole won, both of them would be able to join the Demigod College and take part in some of the missions of the Demigod College. At least they would be able to look after each other, and they could discuss and solve any problems they encountered. Not long after, just as Landslide had said, Red Oriole finally defeated her opponent and emerged from the independent space. Red Oriole, who had just fought, was covered in wounds, and her red dress was in tatters. Anyone who saw her would feel pity for her. Fortunately, as soon as she came out, she took out another long dress from the small world and put it on. As for the injuries on her body, there was no need to worry about it. Although the bodies of the blood demons were not very strong, they could still recover from injuries. Especially after Long Yu gave her an Archean healing pill, there was basically no need to worry about her wounds. Congratulations on passing the test. The two of you can join the Demigod College together in 3 months and accept the first mission of the Demigod College. Before that, I would like to ask all of you to cultivate properly and improve your strength. After Landslide finished speaking to the two of them, he added one last sentence. This matter ends here. The rewards have also been given out. The two of you can go do what you need to do. I also have a lot of things to deal with, so I will take my leave first. Thank you, Senior. Long Yu and Red Oriole bowed and saw him off. They were quite grateful to Landslide. For Long Yu, although he had stalled for a long time with his wit, if Landslide and Dragon Wing, the two demigods, hadn't arrived in time, Long Yu would have been dead. The rewards were secondary. For Long Yu, it was already a miracle that he came back alive, and he brought back the blade of the Void Nether Dragon safely. The matter of the Ice God clan's sacred relic was not leaked to the Outer Gods, either. The final result could be said to be satisfactory. Besides, both he and Red Oriole had received so many rewards and were qualified to join the Demigod College. It's almost time for us to go back. If I'm not wrong, the ancient alien relics that your brother and senior consort you talked about will be opened in a couple of days. Long Yu said to Red Oriole. Well, not bad. Let's go back first. The remains of the demigod's small world must be very spacious. Let's go back and let everyone search it together. We can share the good stuff together. Red Oriole nodded and said. They'd gain a lot this time. The remains of the small world, the military merits on the battlefield, the qualification to join the Demigod College. Everything else had laid a solid foundation for their future improvement. The mission on the alien battlefield was definitely a turning point in Long Yu's life. Apart from everything else, the first-class honor badge alone had completely changed his position in the territory of the human race and the demon race. Previously, it could be said that he had been driven to the outer realms by the White Feather Monsters clan, the Golden Flood Dragon Monsters clan, and the other monsters clans. However, after a short period of time, Long Yu had already obtained a first-class honor badge. His status had completely crushed those monstrous clans. If he met those demonic races again, as long as he showed the first-class honor badge, they would definitely not dare to attack him, unless they wanted to be annihilated by the demigod experts of the demon race. Attacking Long Yu would be a disrespect to the demon army on the battlefield and a denial of Long Yu's achievements. It would shake the foundation of the demon race's territory. How could the demigod experts tolerate such a thing? Let's go. We returned with a full load this time. Long Yu and Red Oriole left hand in hand. As for the army on the battlefield, the operation that was about to be carried out had nothing to do with them. Even if it was to counterattack the territory of the Ice God clan, Long Yu would definitely not participate in such an operation. As a matter of fact, the mercenaries of the battlefield army would not be allowed to participate in such a large-scale battle. Only regular armies could participate in the battle. Before leaving, the two of them bid farewell to Bai Yu, Heavenly Prison Thunder Emperor, Ma Qining, Lei Han, and the others. These people were still preparing to stay here, waiting for the next step of the mission. In the next step of the demon race's strategy, there might be something they could help with. Long Yu and Red Oriole had to go back first, because the two of them also had some ideas about the primordial relic. Although the primordial alien relic was very dangerous, Long Yu still decided to believe in Consort Yu. If even Consort Yu could not come out alive, then perhaps only demigods could. Long Yu and Red Oriole could follow Consort Yu closely, and they might come in handy at a critical moment. Hiding in Consort Yu's small world, there was no need to worry about their safety. Unless Consort Yu died, they would definitely be safe. If they could make it in time, the two of them would like to follow and broaden their horizons. After all, the primordial alien relic was very rare, and even Consort Yu saw it as a rare opportunity. As long as Consort Yu and Shuel Luo agreed, Long Yu and Red Oriole would definitely follow, especially now that Long Yu and Red Oriole had received quite a lot of rewards, and their martial realm had also increased. It was time to test their actual combat ability. The battle with Landslide's mirror image was just a sparring session. A real battle would not have such conditions. Therefore, the two of them were looking forward to encountering more battles to train themselves. When we go back, let's try to see if we can refine the 9 Hell Steel into a world imprint. Breaking through to the Sovereign Secret Realm is our first priority. Chapter 1277. Planet Shuel Luo. Since Long Yu had a Tier 1 honor badge, he could request the space-time imprint's teleportation formation to be opened immediately, so it only took him a day to return to Planet Shuel Luo with Red Oriole. In the third galaxy, most of the people who came out from Long Yu's Divine Battle World had completed this month's Battlefield Core mission. Some had even completed it several times. For example, Man Exen, Chiwa, Gu Ishian, Mo Jian, and so on were all working very hard to level up. In just a month, these people's temperament was completely different from before. They all had a bit of killing intent. It was obvious that they had killed many foreign races. Of course, the Battlefield Core mission that they did was not as difficult as the one that Long Yu and Red Oriole accepted. They were mostly ordinary escort missions and scouting missions, but it was inevitable that they would run into some weaker foreign races, which was perfect for them to practice on. When they accepted the Battlefield Legion mission, they always accepted the same mission together. This way, they could cooperate better with each other during the mission. After all, they were all people who had known each other for a long time. This was also the reason why no one had died in the past month. At most, there were a few who were seriously injured, but they had all recovered by now. Sometimes, they would rather give up on the mission and accept double the punishment, but they still prioritized their own lives. This was what Long Yu had reminded them before. No matter what, they had to stay alive. Only when they were alive could they have a future. Many people's martial realm had increased. In just a month, some had reached the 4-star Emperor, others had reached the 3-star Emperor. Their rate of improvement could not be said to be slow. Even Long Yu had only increased his martial realm by 2 martial realms, and that was after obtaining so many cultivation resources, as well as the fact that the Netherworld Dragon Blade could completely absorb the power within. For others to be able to increase their martial realm by 2 or even 3 martial realms in this month was already quite impressive. It was obvious that they were all working very hard. When Long Yu and Red Oriole returned, Consort Yu had not yet set off with Shuel Luo and the others. They were still in the midst of preparations. In order to explore the ancient foreign race ruins, they had to at least prepare a lot of pills with various effects in order to deal with different situations and situations. If they rashly entered the foreign race ruins without enough preparation, they would most likely end up dead. Brother Long, you're back. Long Yu was walking on the fallen blood star in Tianya City. Suddenly, he heard a young girl's excited voice. It was Liao Lele. Lele, long time no see. Long Yu turned around and saw Liao Lele, who was wearing a short blue dress, smiling and waving at him. It seemed that something that made her very happy was happening. Big Brother Long, it's great that you're back now. Let me tell you a piece of good news. Just yesterday, I finally refined the Devil Heaven Movement Pill and the Void Movement Pill. Liao Lele ran forward and said excitedly to Long Yu, I spent 2 rainbow stone eggs and a lot of rainbow crystal powder. In the end, I finally succeeded in refining a Devil Heaven Movement Pill and a Void Movement Pill. When Long Yu heard this, he was immediately pleasantly surprised. He didn't have much hope, but he didn't expect that Liao Lele would really refine 2 heaven-defying pills this time. The Devil Heaven Movement Pill could greatly improve the cultivator's compatibility with the Shadow Attribute Divine Text after consumption. The Void Movement Pill could greatly improve the cultivator's compatibility with the Space Attribute Divine Text after consumption. These 2 types of pills were heaven-defying and extremely rare. Even in the current territories of the human race and the demon race, it was likely that there was no other such pill. In other words, the 2 pills that Liao Lele had refined were absolutely unique and could not be found anywhere else. Moreover, these heaven-defying pills did not have any conditions for consumption. Some pills could only be used by the human race, some pills could only be used by the demon race, and some pills could only be used by the foreign race, but the Devil Heaven Movement Pill and the Void Movement Pill did not have any conditions. Whether it was the human race, the demon race, or the foreign race, they could directly consume these heaven-defying pills and absorb the energy within. If there were no accidents, only the alchemists of the Sufferers Alliance could refine these heaven-defying pills. But now, Liao Lele had actually refined them. Although a large part of the reason was because of the Misery Sea Medicine Cauldron, Liao Lele's personal efforts absolutely could not be ignored. Of course, the process of Long Yu and Red Oriole searching for materials in the Demon Saint's tomb had also been very arduous, and they had put in a lot of effort. Devil Heaven Movement Pill, Void Movement Pill, Long Yu, you need all of them. Don't worry about me. Before Long Yu could speak, Red Oriole smiled and spoke first. To her, Long Yu's safety was more important than her. If she didn't say anything, Long Yu might really give the Void Movement Pill to her. But in reality, Long Yu was the one who needed the Void Movement Pill the most. As long as his compatibility with the Spatial Divine Text increased, he would be able to comprehend the Water-type Primordial Beginning Power in the Nether Dragon Blade at a faster rate. Water-type Primordial Beginning Power was the strongest spacetime power. The other Spatial Divine Text powers were just defective products derived from Water-type Primordial Beginning Power. Water-type Primordial Beginning Power was definitely not as powerful as the Revelation-level Divine Text, but it was still very rare. Long Yu couldn't give it up. Well, thank you very much. Hearing this, Long Yu nodded. He also knew that Red Oriole was thinking for his sake, so he didn't refuse her kind intentions. Although the Rainbow Crystal Powder was a precious alchemy resource that he and Red Oriole had fought for together, there was no need for him to be unreasonable since Red Oriole had given in to him. He really needed the Void Movement Pill. As for the Devil Heaven Movement Pill, it could increase a cultivator's compatibility with the Shadow-type Divine Text. It could also increase the speed at which Long Yu comprehended the Revelation-level Divine Text of the 9 Serenities. For Red Oriole, however, it wasn't of much use. The blood-color Divine Text that Red Oriole had comprehended was a type of light-type Divine Text. Moreover, it carried a strange power that even the Blood Demon tribe themselves didn't know. It wasn't one of the 8 types of Divine Text. Therefore, for Red Oriole, only a pill that could increase her compatibility with a light-type Divine Text would be more useful. Big Brother Long, I'll go get the pill for you. After saying this, Liao Lele skipped back to her room. Long Yu and Red Oriole looked at each other. Then, they walked into Liao Lele's courtyard together. They discovered that there were many defective pills that had failed to be refined in the courtyard. There were also some damaged pill materials, and so on. Many pill dregs had also been dumped in the courtyard. From this, it could be seen how hard Liao Lele had worked to learn pill refinement. Even though she had already reached the martial arts realm of the 3-star Emperor, it was still not easy for her to refine heaven-defying pills. She works too hard. Long Yu couldn't help but sigh. In this world, who doesn't work hard if they want to succeed? However, Red Oriole shook her head slightly. However, half of her hard work is for you. I could tell that the little girl likes you very much. Long Yu didn't respond. In reality, he had already noticed this when they were on Heavenly Mandate Island. He just didn't expect that Liao Lele would persist in liking him for so long. However, when it came to relationships, Long Yu wasn't someone who took the initiative. As for Liao Lele, she had long lost the courage to take the initiative. The two of them could only continue their current relationship. Of course, Red Oriole wouldn't instigate Long Yu and Liao Lele to do anything. To her, she couldn't wait for Long Yu to be her own. If it were any other woman, they would think the same way. Very soon, Liao Lele took out the Void Travel Pill and the Demonic Heaven Travel Pill from the alchemy room. When she saw Long Yu and Red Oriole standing side by side, she was a little sad. However, she quickly ran over with a smile. Here, big brother Long. Liao Lele handed the Devil Heaven Traversing Pill and the Void Traversing Pill to Long Yu and revealed a satisfied smile. To her, seeing Long Yu was not an easy thing to do, and now that she was able to complete Long Yu's request and refine the Devil Heaven Traversing Pill and the Void Traversing Pill, she was naturally very proud. Thank you. You've worked hard, Lele. Long Yu felt a little guilty. Although he had brought a lot of cultivation resources to the people of Divine Battle World, he hadn't given them anything in return. There were probably many people like Liao Lele who cared about him. It was just that he couldn't respond to them in the end. After some thought, Long Yu took out a divine absolute beginning item from the small world. It was the Golden Dragon Monstrous Race's third prince's absolute beginning golden cave. This absolute beginning divine grade weapon was a light attributed absolute beginning divine grade weapon. Although it wasn't a good match for Liao Lele, it was still quite powerful. Since Liao Lele didn't have any good weapons to defend himself, having the absolute beginning golden cave was a good thing. Is this a divine absolute beginning item? Liao Lele was shocked. She didn't think that Long Yu would give her a divine absolute beginning item. This was something she had never imagined. Take it. If you want to stay in the Outer Domain Galaxy, you'll definitely need to complete a few battlefield core missions. How can you do that without something to protect yourself? Long Yu smiled and said, Actually, the battlefield core missions that I need to complete are just some pills. Although Liao Lele shook his head, he did not disappoint Long Yu's good intentions. He carefully accepted the divine absolute beginning treasure from the golden cave of absolute beginning. A look of joy and satisfaction appeared on his face. To her, the golden cave being a gift from Long Yu was far more meaningful than it actually was. Just take it. It's just going to rust if I keep it anyway. It's such a waste. Long Yu smiled and chatted with Liao Lele for a while about alchemy. Then, he turned around and left with Red Oriole, preparing to find Yufei. Chapter 1278. Very soon, Long Yu and Red Oriole came out from Consort Yu's residence. Just now, after much persuasion, the two of them finally convinced Consort Yu to bring the two of them along when they went to the ancient outsider ruins. When the two of them came out, they were all smiles. Not bad. I finally convinced her. I've heard about the mutated tribe's ruins a long time ago. What you can get in there is completely up to luck, and the main thing is to deal with the traps and whatnot. Red Oriole said with a smile. Let's hope the traps aren't too strange. I might be able to avoid most of the traps if I turn into nothingness. Long Yu nodded his head. Turning into nothingness was his most powerful technique, and it could be used in many situations. His ability to conceal his tracks was top-notch. Go back and take the 2 pills. I'll go back and consolidate my cultivation. I've just stepped into the Sovereign Realm, and there are still some things I need to stabilize. Red Oriole said to Long Yu, and the two of them parted ways. Long Yu returned to his courtyard, and he sighed ruefully. In a short month, all he had done was to complete a mission, but so many things had happened, and he had even received a first-class honor medal. Before setting off, Long Yu had never imagined that he would reap such a bountiful harvest. Devil Sky Speed Pill, Void Speed Pill, these two heaven-defying pills. I'll need at least one night to absorb all of their medicinal energy. Once I'm done, I can try to break through to the Sovereign's secret realm tomorrow. Long Yu thought to himself, and a wave of excitement washed over him. There was a huge gap between the Emperor's secret realm and the Sovereign's secret realm. Long Yu had been in the Emperor's secret realm for a long time, but he had barely reached the threshold of the Sovereign's secret realm. It had been a long time, from the early Emperor realm to the mid-Emperor realm, Emperor realm, Emperor realm, and finally Emperor realm. All of them belonged to the Emperor's secret realm. They were a level higher than the Transcendent secret realm, but a level lower than the Sovereign secret realm. Finally, Long Yu was about to step into the Sovereign realm. Every two major realms would bring about a huge change to the cultivator. From a monarch's secret realm to the Sovereign secret realm, the cultivator's inner world would transform into a minor world. That was the biggest change. Before that, Long Yu had to first consume the two heaven-defying pills. They contained a vast amount of heaven and earth spiritual chi, just enough to expand his inner world to a radius of 10 billion miles. The other energies contained within were the pure condensation of shadow attribute and space attribute divine characters. After absorbing them, a cultivator would be able to increase their compatibility with the shadow attribute and space attribute divine characters. After returning to the courtyard, Long Yu immediately took the two pills. First was the Devil Heaven Speed Pill. After all, shadow attribute divine characters were Long Yu's forte, and they had the greatest impact on Long Yu's battle prowess. One had to know that Long Yu's comprehension of the 9 nether divine characters was already at the revelation level. Increasing his compatibility with the shadow attribute divine characters would naturally increase his strength. Furthermore, Long Yu's compatibility with the shadow attribute divine characters was already at level 11. If he could raise it to level 12, he would be at the peak. Long Yu would be able to achieve perfect compatibility with the shadow attribute divine characters, and he would be able to unleash his full potential. Long Yu held the black pill in his hand as he thought about it. The Devil Heaven Speed Pill was a pill concocted from the Rainbow Stone Egg and the Rainbow Crystal Powder, two extremely rare ingredients. It was an incredibly powerful medicinal pill that had surpassed the scope of endless-grade medicinal pills. It was a heaven-defying medicinal pill. Little Void started absorbing it. Unlike other cultivators, Long Yu used the Void Nether Dragon Dagger to absorb medicinal pills instead of swallowing them himself. This way, the Void Nether Dragon Dagger could absorb 100% of the medicinal energy of the pill and then transfer it to Long Yu. The Void Nether Dragon Dagger didn't hesitate. Following Long Yu's order, it immediately started absorbing the energy of the Devil Heaven Speed Pill. The medicinal energy contained within these heaven-defying pills was simply too strong. Even a Nether Void Dragon Blade could only absorb it bit by bit. It couldn't be absorbed any faster. This was also the reason why Long Yu needed an entire night to absorb 2 heaven-defying pills, because the medicinal power contained within it was simply too strong. As the medicinal energy of the Devil Heaven Speed Pill flowed into Long Yu's body through the Void Nether Dragon Dagger, Long Yu's entire body began absorbing the energy. First was the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. After being absorbed by Long Yu, he used it to expand his inner world. He was only a little bit away from reaching a size of 10 billion kilometers. After absorbing this Devil Heaven Speed Pill, not only would he be able to expand his inner world to a size of 10 billion kilometers, but there would also be a lot of spiritual energy left. Long Yu planned to absorb all of it for the Devil Dust Heart. Second was the pure condensation of shadow attribute divine characters. This wasn't a type of power, but rather a unique existence. Long Yu had taken some medicinal pills in the past that could strengthen a cultivator's compatibility with the shadow attribute, and they contained such existences. However, this was the first time that Long Yu had seen a medicinal pill that contained so many pure, condensations of divine characters. In other words, Long Yu's compatibility with the shadow attribute had reached level 11. If he had just reached level 5 or level 6, then this medicinal pill could allow a cultivator's compatibility with the shadow attribute divine characters to reach level 8 or even level 9. From this, one could see just how heaven-defying its effects were. This is truly a heaven-defying medicinal pill. Long Yu couldn't help but sigh with emotion. In just 2 hours, he could feel that his perception of the shadow attribute divine characters had become much more sensitive, and the power he displayed had also increased by several times. Although his compatibility level was still at level 11, his strength had increased by a great deal. Let's keep this up. Long Yu continued to absorb the energy within. Soon, his inner world had expanded to a radius of 10 billion miles. The extra heaven and earth spiritual energy was all absorbed by Long Yu's demon dust heart. Now that he had cultivated the world pure body to the 6th layer, he would need the power of creation if he wanted to further improve it. Just relying on heaven and earth spiritual energy wasn't enough. So now that Long Yu was absorbing heaven and earth spiritual energy, he was using it to enhance the 2nd layer of the demon dust heart martial arts technique. 2 hours, 4 hours, soon 6 hours had passed. Long Yu had finally absorbed the entire medicinal efficacy of the demon heaven path pill. At the last moment, his compatibility with the shadow attribute divine characters had finally reached level 12. At this moment, Long Yu felt a dark aura surrounding him, as if it would pull him into a dark abyss. And from that dark abyss, there was a mysterious strength that penetrated through him and seeped into his body. Going from level 11 to 12 was a qualitative change. It wasn't just a difference in reaching the peak. There was also a mysterious change. Long Yu felt as if he had finally touched upon the essence of darkness. This feeling was something he had never felt before. And the change that came with it was that every move he executed that was related to the shadow attribute divine characters would be enhanced by a mysterious force, enhancing the strength of those moves. With the support of this mysterious shadowy energy, the power of Long Yu's shadowy divine runes increased by 10 times, and it also had a powerful corrosive and destructive effect. Too strong. When the shadow attribute divine characters reached the pinnacle, with the support of the mysterious darkness, a qualitative change occurred. Just the might of his moves increased by 10 times, and there was no need to mention the powerful corrosive effect. If Long Yu had to deal with Landslide's mirror image, he wouldn't be in such a miserable state. At the very least, he would be able to cause some damage to his opponent. With my current situation, if I enter the Sovereign Secret Realm, my strength will increase by a lot. It seems like I'm more confident in heading to the ancient ruins. Long Yu thought to himself. He wanted to find someone to spar with to test out the might of his various techniques. Unfortunately, it was the middle of the night, and there was no place for him to spar with. Not to mention, Long Yu still had a heaven-defying pill that he had yet to absorb. Void Movement Pill. Compared to the Shadow Attribute Devil Movement Pill, the Spatial Attribute Void Movement Pill was much more tempting. One had to know that the divine characters that Long Yu was most proficient in were the Shadow Attribute and Spatial Divine characters. The Shadow Attribute Divine characters were Long Yu's main strength. They could be used for both offense and defense. And to Long Yu, Spatial Divine runes represented flexibility. If he could improve in this aspect, the power of his control over the Void Underworld Dragon Blade would also increase. Moreover, it would be easier for him to awaken the Void Underworld Dragon Blade, and it would be easier for him to comprehend the Water Origin energy. Thus, Long Yu was looking forward to the effects of the Void Movement Pill. Even if it couldn't allow him to reach the peak of the 12th level with the Space Attribute Divine text, giving birth to a power like the Mysterious Shadow, it could greatly increase the power of his Space Attribute Divine text. Without any hesitation, Long Yu let the Nether Void Dragon Blade absorb the energy of the Void Movement Pill. Originally, Long Yu's compatibility with the Spatial Divine characters had reached the 7th level. Based on a rough estimation, he should be able to reach the 10th level after absorbing the void movement pill. No matter what, Long Yu had already absorbed all of it. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth was also used to strengthen the devil dust heart. After absorbing the spiritual chi of heaven and earth from 2 heaven-defying pills, the transformation of the devil dust heart was quite obvious. Although it had not advanced from the 2nd layer to the 3rd layer, it seemed to have advanced by half. That surprised Long Yu. He hadn't expected such a heaven-defying pill to contain so much heaven and earth spiritual energy. Although it wasn't as explosive as an unending grade pill, the amount of heaven and earth spiritual energy contained within it was hundreds or even thousands of times more than an unending grade pill. Chapter 1279. In one night, Long Yu finished absorbing the demonic sky speed pill and the void travel pill. His compatibility with the darkness-attributed divine characters had finally reached the 12th level, and the mysterious power of darkness was born, strengthening the corrosive ability of his darkness-attributed divine characters. His compatibility with the spatial divine characters had also risen from the 7th level to the 10th level, instantly increasing by several levels. Disregarding everything else, just the power of Long Yu's Void Nether Dragon Blade had increased by at least 10 times. Even if it was just one level of compatibility with the spatial divine characters, it could still increase the power of spatial divine characters by 3 times. It was normal for the 3 levels of compatibility to increase the power by 10 times. This gave Long Yu some confidence in his own strength. Now, if he were to encounter a lower-level Dominator's landslide mirror image doppelganger, using Void Burial wouldn't be completely ineffective. At the very least, it would be able to cause the opponent to lose a layer of skin. And this was only the effect of 2 heaven-defying pills that Long Yu had consumed. The next step that could greatly increase his strength was to condense a world mark, transform his inner world into a small world, and then step into the Sovereign's secret realm. To condense a world mark, one needed to find an item that could condense the core power of one's inner world, and then condense the inner world into that item. That item was called a world mark. For example, the 9 Nether Realm. Long Yu didn't know what the 9 Nether Realm's world mark was originally, but it was now just a ball of 9 nether light without a physical body. It was obvious that it had been destroyed a long time ago. And when Long Yu chose a world mark, he naturally had to choose the one with the strongest defense. Of all the things that he knew, there was absolutely nothing that could surpass the 9 Nether Prison Tablet. However, he was conflicted about whether the 9 Nether Prison Tablet could be condensed into a world mark. If it could, then his world mark would definitely be the strongest in the human and demonic races' territories. As for whether it would be one of the strongest, he didn't know. No matter what, let's give it a try first. Long Yu was determined to give it a try, otherwise, he really wouldn't give up. In any case, he could go to the inner space of the 9 Hell Tablet at any time, and if anything happened, he could just hide inside, so there shouldn't be any problems. However, such an experiment could not be carried out on Luo's star. It could only be carried out outside of Luo's star, 1,000,000 miles away from the planet. Otherwise, if an accident occurred, the entire Luo star would be destroyed. The operation of the ancient outsider ruins will officially depart in 2 days. We'll be waiting for you then. Before Long Yu set off, Red Oriole and Consort you spoke to him together. Yes, Long Yu nodded, then took the 9 Hell Steel and flew out of the Luo star. Relying on the Void Spirit Dragon Blade's water element absolute beginning power, he could jump hundreds of thousands of miles every time he used void travel. After 3 trips, he was already 1,000,000 miles away from the Luo star. Right now, the Void Spirit Dragon Blade was more than enough to travel. It definitely surpassed ordinary cultivators of the same realm. Even a great ruler would have to ask the Void Spirit Dragon Blade for permission to catch up to him. After all, the Void Spirit Dragon Blade was now a divine absolute beginning grade, and it was a special divine absolute beginning grade that was compatible with Long Yu to an unparalleled level. Its effects were far better than any ordinary combat weapon. When he arrived in the void, there was no one within 1,000,000 miles. Long Yu let out a sigh of relief and took out the 9 hell steel from his inner world. The 9 hell steel was still as mysterious and awe-inspiring as ever. It appeared in front of Long Yu, making Long Yu look like an extremely tiny ant. In reality, the 9 underworld prison steel contained an unimaginable amount of power. In terms of power, Long Yu was indeed just a tiny ant. And now, this tiny ant was trying to refine the 9 hell steel into his world imprint. This couldn't be said to be an extremely daring move. If it was someone else, they wouldn't even dare to think of such a thing. However, Long Yu had the goal of becoming the strongest. With such a goal in mind, any step he took, he had to surpass others. It was the same for the world imprint. As there were only 2 days left before Consort Yu and Shueluo would depart, Long Yu didn't waste any time. He came to the void, took out the 9 hell steel, and began the process of refining it. After Long Yu activated his Dantian, some of the core power in his inner world surged out from his inner world, condensing into strands of power in his Dantian. Wisps of mind realm power gathered in his hand. He slowly raised his hand and touched the ice-cold giant 9 hell prison tablet in front of him. Slowly, Long Yu activated his mind power and slowly sent it into the 9 hell steel. During this process, he was constantly paying attention to the movement of the 9 hell steel's power. If there was any strange movement, he would immediately hide inside the 9 hell steel's space. If that happened, he would have to spend as long as a month inside the 9 hell steel and wouldn't be able to come out. Although he would miss the trip to the ancient alien ruins, there was no other way. Long Yu definitely wouldn't be satisfied if he didn't try to refine the 9 hell steel into his world imprint. What made him secretly happy was that as he continued to send his heart realm power into the 9 nether prison steel, the 9 nether prison steel actually did not reject him, nor did it show any signs of power erupting, causing Long Yu to gradually feel at ease. It's probably because the 9 hell steel's attribute is compatible with my main attribute. After all, I've mainly comprehended the Shadow 9 hell divine text. I've also comprehended a strand of Revelation level 9 hell divine text. My compatibility with the Shadow divine text has also reached level 12. Long Yu speculated about the reason and continued to send his mind power in. To refine a world imprint, the most important thing was to find some materials that were suitable for one's attribute. For example, if one mainly comprehended the light divine text, it would be best to find materials with the light divine text for the world imprint, and so on. Long Yu's main attribute was shadow, and the 9 hell steel's main attribute was shadow. A part of Long Yu's power was inherited from the 9 hell steel, so the degree of compatibility between the two was obvious. Under such circumstances, Long Yu could actually feel his consciousness gradually seeping into the 9 hell steel. The size of the 9 underworld prison tablet was simply too enormous. Even when Long Yu raised his head, he was unable to see its peak. However, as he poured his heart force into it, he was gradually able to sense the entire 9 underworld prison tablet. This feeling made Long Yu secretly happy, but he wasn't anxious. Instead, he continued to send his mind power into it bit by bit. In the process of condensing a world imprint, one must not be anxious. This was because the cultivator needed to rely on his mind power to gradually control the entire material in his hands. Once he was anxious, even if he successfully condensed it into a world imprint, it would cause the world imprint and his small world to not be compatible. Therefore, Long Yu also wanted to completely understand this 9 hell steel. That was the most responsible thing for his small world, so he had to take things slowly. A day and a night passed very quickly. Long Yu's mind realm power had already condensed more and more into the 9 underworld prison steel, and his mind had already covered the entire 9 underworld prison steel. Until now, it had not caused any reaction or change to the 9 underworld prison steel. The only thing that made Long Yu a little sad was that there was a core part of the 9 hell steel that his mind power couldn't enter no matter what. He felt that once he touched it, it would cause a reaction from the 9 hell steel, so he couldn't make up his mind. In the end, after thinking for a long time, Long Yu decided to give it a try. If anything went wrong, he would immediately hide in the 9 Hell Steel small world. Although Long Yu could now completely integrate his inner world into it, and then completely condense the 9 Underworlds tablet into a world imprint. This way, the 9 Underworlds tablet and Long Yu's small world might not be compatible, and no one knew what would happen. Although it was only a small portion of the 9 Underworld prison steel that Long Yu had not touched, that small portion was the core of the steel. After Long Yu made up his mind, he tried to surround the core part with his mind power. However, he soon realized that the core part had a repulsive force that repelled his mind power. He couldn't get close no matter what. Even though Long Yu strengthened his condensed mind power, there was no improvement. The 9 Hell Steel was too mysterious and too powerful. It wasn't something that someone at Long Yu's level could understand. What should I do? If I don't understand this part, the small world might not be harmonious in the future. However, it seems that with my current strength, I can't force my way into the core part. Should I give up? If I give up and choose other materials, although I can condense a world imprint, it can't be compared to the 9 Hell Steel. Long Yu's heart sank into a dilemma. He was used to wanting the best, but when he insisted on the best 9 Hell Steel, it would cause some incompatibility between the small world and the world imprint. How to make a choice was the biggest problem he faced now. He thought about it for a day and a night. It wasn't until the last moment that he finally opened his eyes and made his final decision. If it's not compatible, then it's not compatible. Anyway, everything is uncertain. I might as well give it a try. At least if I use the 9 Hell Steel as the world imprint, it won't be destroyed by others. Being able to confirm this has already satisfied my requirements for the world imprint. All Long Yu thought about was safety. If he condensed the 9 Hell Steel into the world imprint, his safety would be guaranteed. This trip to the ancient foreign tribe ruins would also be much safer. Chapter 1280. After Long Yu made up his mind, he activated his inner world and completely integrated the power of mind into the GOU prison tablet. Although there was still a core area in the GOU prison tablet that hadn't been touched by Long Yu, most of the other places were already under Long Yu's control. As the power of mind surged into it, a small world finally appeared near the inner space of the GOU prison tablet. This small world was where Long Yu's small world would be in the future. It was located near the inner space of the GOU prison tablet. Speaking of which, Long Yu's small world would also become one of the inner spaces of the GOU prison tablet. It would be the same as the original inner space, but the things inside would be different. The original inner space of the GOU prison tablet was filled with revelation-level GOU divine text. Long Yu had comprehended revelation-level GOU divine text from it. Now, the small world that Long Yu had formed was located near the original inner space. It had become another inner space and was protected by the GOU prison tablet. In addition to these two inner spaces, there was another core space in the GOU prison tablet. That core space was a place that Long Yu hadn't explored yet. Long Yu didn't know what was in it for the time being, but Long Yu didn't have time to think about it now. As Long Yu's small world formed in the GOU prison tablet, everything in his inner world was transferred to this small world. The billions of Ice God clan members that he had found in the wreckage of the small world were all transferred to this small world. Unfortunately, Long Yu didn't have time to create a glacier land for them to live on. He just circled a void area and locked them in it, letting them fend for themselves. Anyway, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth would constantly be produced in the void of the small world. The survival of the Ice God clan shouldn't be a problem, so there was no need for Long Yu to worry. I finally succeeded. Long Yu felt that his small world had finally formed. The 7 Kane mystique fruits had also been transferred to the GOU prison tablet. His body seemed to have become empty, and he wasn't used to it. However, at the same time, there was a mysterious connection between him and the 9 Hell Monument. This connection allowed him to control a little of the 9 Hell Monument's power. Even if he wasn't in the 9 Hell prison tablet's original space, Long Yu could still feel the revelation-level 9 Hell divine text. In other words, he could constantly comprehend the revelation level 9 Hell Divine text and comprehend it to a deeper level. This was very good news for Long Yu, because it meant that his strength could be steadily improved, and he did not need to specially run into the 9 Hell tablet. At the same time, Long Yu seemed to be able to use some of the power within the 9 Hell's prison tablet's original space, the Revelation Level 9 Hell's divine text, to increase his temporary combat power. Thinking of this, Long Yu couldn't help but give it a try. He took out the remains of an ancient combat weapon from his pocket dimension and tossed it into the distance. Then, Long Yu raised his hand and directly used the Revelation Level 9 Hell Divine text in the 9 Hell monument, condensing in his mouth, and a 9 Hell dragon breath burst out. In almost an instant, the tyrannical, destructive, and corrosive power completely destroyed the ancient combat weapon, turning it into dust in an instant. This was Long Yu's current strength. Ordinary ancient weapons were nothing in front of him. Of course, if it was an ancient weapon in the hands of a martial arts expert, then it would be a different story. However, one could see that the destructive power of the 9 Hell Monument, that Long Yu was using the 9 Hell Monument's power, was at least 10 times stronger than before. Part of this was due to the 9 Hell Monument, but another part was due to Long Yu's increase in martial realm. When the small world finally formed, Long Yu's martial realm finally broke through to the sovereign secret realm, reaching the lesser sovereign realm. This was also the result of his long period of hard work. Now that he had finally achieved it, his strength had increased by a lot. Feeling the increase in strength from the small world, Long Yu's blood was boiling. If he were to fight against the lesser sovereign realm's mirror image, he had a premonition that he would be able to destroy it in a matter of minutes. This premonition wasn't without reason. It was built on the fact that his strength had increased explosively. Simply put, if he were to fight against the lesser sovereign realm before his breakthrough, he would definitely be able to fight against 10 lesser sovereign realm opponents. If he borrowed the 9 Hell Monument's power, he wouldn't feel too much pressure even if he were to fight against 20 lesser sovereigns alone. The difference between the sovereign secret realm and the monarch's secret realm was too great. At this moment, Long Yu finally felt like he had made a name for himself in the demon race and human race's territories. In fact, it was even more intense than when he received the first-class honor badge. After all, the first-class honor badge was given to him by others. Now his strength had increased. These were two completely different concepts. Strength was the most important thing. Long Yu knew very well that if he didn't have the strength, if the demigods found out that he had the foreign god race's relic on him, they would definitely not be merciful. They would use any means to take the relic away, even if it was by force. Then, they would symbolically compensate him. To be honest, Long Yu also felt that the human race and demon race's armies had basically given him all the rewards they could give him. No matter how much cultivation resources they offered, Long Yu wouldn't be willing to hand over the relic. Therefore, only strength could give Long Yu the greatest sense of security. Moreover, he was currently much weaker than Red Oriole. As a man, how could he tolerate such a situation? Even if he could tolerate it for a while, he couldn't tolerate it forever. It's a pity that the ice gods in the small worlds don't have a ruler's mysterious realm. Otherwise, I would like to try on a few mid-level sovereigns. Long Yu was a little puzzled. The ice gods in the small worlds were at most 3 or 4-star emperor level. Long Yu could kill them with one hand. There was no way he could use them to test his strength. After thinking about it, he realized that time was rather tight, so he didn't dwell on it too much. After successfully entering the ruler's mysterious realm, Long Yu familiarized himself with his current strength and put the 9 Hell Tablet away. Now that it had become his world imprint, the 9 Hell Tablet could change its size at will. When it was put into his sleeve, he felt like he could control it at will. This was something that he didn't have before. It was similar to when he started to become compatible with a battle weapon. This caused Long Yu to be a little surprised. Originally, he had thought that he would definitely not be able to grasp something at the level of the 9 Hell Tablet. Who would have thought that there were already signs of it? Furthermore, he was only missing the core part. Long Yu didn't know what was in the core part of the 9 Hell Tablet. However, It should be the place where the pure world body, devil dust heart, and other martial arts secret techniques were stored. Previously, the Geo Dragon Emperor should have entered the core part, or at least in the form of his consciousness. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to obtain the cultivation method for the pure world body and devil dust heart. One had to know that Long Yu had already mastered the other parts of the Nine Hell Tablet. However, he didn't find any traces of martial arts secret techniques. All he found was a dense amount of deep-level Nine Hell divine characters. Therefore, the essence of the treasures in the Nine Hell Tablet was definitely in the core part. Since he couldn't enter it now, Long Yu didn't think too much about it. He could only continue to increase his martial realm and see if he could find a way to dig out the secrets within. Very soon, Long Yu put away the Nine Hell Tablet and returned to Shui Luo's star. He saw Red Oriole and Consort Yu. Seeing Long Yu return and sensing Long Yu's lesser sovereign cultivation aura, the two women heaved a sigh of relief. When they heard that Long Yu was going to condense the Nine Hell Tablet into a world mark, they broke out in cold sweat. Now that they saw that Long Yu had finally succeeded, they couldn't help but feel happy for Long Yu. Both Red Oriole and Concubine Yu knew exactly how extraordinary the Nine Underworld Prison Tablet was. Red Oriole's life had already been saved by the Nine Hell Tablet. Of course, she knew that this thing was most likely related to the gods. As for Consort Yu, she came from the Nine Hell clan and already knew of the Nine Hell Tablet's existence. Moreover, after a month of studying it, she had truly comprehended revelation-grade Nine Hell Divine text from it, which greatly increased her strength. She had no doubt that the Nine Hell Tablet was related to the gods. She was almost 100% certain. How was it? Did you succeed? The two women walked up to Long Yu and asked with concern. Red Oriole was concerned for her man, while Consort Yu was concerned for a friend. However, it was clear that to Consort Yu, Long Yu wasn't just an ordinary friend. Because of Long Yu, Consort Yu left the Nine Hell clan and didn't even want to be a saintess anymore. This wasn't because she valued Long Yu. It was just that she had been suppressing a lot of emotions in her heart all this time, and Long Yu was the catalyst that led to the final result. Moreover, Long Yu now had the Nine Hell Tablet, and his understanding of the Nine Hell Divine text surpassed Consort Yu's. This made Consort Yu feel that this kid might surpass her in time. Of course, she had already heard that Long Yu and Red Oriole had both obtained the right to enter the Demigod Institute. This should be the opportunity for them to completely rise up. It's a success. Now I really want to find a medium ruler to fight with and see how far I can go. Long Yu laughed. He was in a very good mood right now. That's easy. I'll tell my brother, and he can immediately send an experienced squad leader to fight with you. Do you want it? Red Oriole went up and grabbed Long Yu's arm, then giggled as she asked, If it won't delay the plan, I'd still like to fight. Chapter 1281. We'll set off tomorrow morning. You still have time to test out your current strength. Consort Yu said with a smile. She was encouraging Long Yu's challenge. Then let's spar first. We still have things to do at night. Red Oriole said mysteriously to Long Yu. When Long Yu heard that, he immediately became excited. He looked up and down Red Oriole's curvaceous body. You're saying, look at your shifty-eyed face. What are you thinking? I'm saying that since you already have a small world, I can return the bone race and vestigial race to you. Red Oriole knocked on Long Yu's head as she said hatefully. Long Yu felt wronged. After all, Red Oriole's words were indeed misunderstood. However, Long Yu didn't think too much about it. It was more important to find someone to spar with first. Long Yu had just broken through to the Sovereign Secret Realm. He was still unfamiliar with his current strength. It was best for him to familiarize himself with it before venturing into the ruins of the ancient era. Red Oriole immediately went to inform Shui Luo, asking him to pick a mid-level sovereign from the army he led to spar with Long Yu. Consort Yu was discussing the Nine Nether Prison Tablet with Long Yu. Both of them mainly cultivated and comprehended the Nine Nether Divine language, and both of them were now progressing toward the Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine language. After exchanging some pointers, both of them gained a lot from each other, and they complemented each other. Even Concubine used current comprehension of the Enlightenment grade 9 Nether Divine text was not as great as Long Use. Therefore, the two of them had a very pleasant conversation. In fact, just from this conversation, both of them felt that their control over their powers had increased by quite a bit. An hour later, Long Yu and Consort Yu followed Red Oriole to Bloody Fall Planet. There was an arena in Sky Cliff City. In a moment, Long Yu would be sparring with a mid-level Sovereign Realm squad leader in this arena. At this time, there were already many spectators in the arena. Most of them were members of the Emperor Army, led by Shui Luo. They were all Emperor-level soldiers. These people were naturally curious about Long Yu. Hearing that a low-level sovereign was sparring with a mid-level Sovereign Realm squad leader, they all flocked over to watch. Many people were whispering to each other. They looked at Long Yu with curiosity in their eyes. This was because they had heard that a human had made great contributions to the Demon Clan on the battlefield against the foreign races. He had even received a first-class honor badge. He was the man that Princess Red Oriole of the Blood Demon Clan had set her eyes on. In other words, it was this young man in front of them. When Long Yu arrived, he was the center of attention. However, he was already used to it. This kind of situation didn't disturb his thoughts. After entering the Sovereign Secret Realm, Long Yu's basic strength was at least 10 times stronger than before. In addition to the various transformations and improvements he had undergone, he wasn't very used to his current strength. When I spar later, I'm afraid I'll be unfamiliar with my strength, Long Yu thought to himself. He raised his head and bid farewell to Consort Yu and Red Oriole before walking to the center of the arena. Very quickly, at the opposite entrance of the arena, a mid-level Sovereign Realm demonic cultivator wearing blood-red armor slowly walked towards the arena. This demonic cultivator was clearly a member of the Blood Demon race. He was a mid-level sovereign. The blood-red armor even covered his face, making it impenetrable. It was obvious that the armor was an extremely powerful defensive weapon. It was probably specially made for every squad leader in the battlefield. I am Long Yu. Thank you for taking the time to spar with me. Long Yu was still very respectful towards the other party. After all, he was the one who invited the other party. The squad leader snorted and didn't say anything else. However, it was obvious that he didn't like Long Yu, who had just broken through to the low-level Sovereign Realm. It was probably because Long Yu dared to challenge a mid-level sovereign as a low-level sovereign. This made him feel a little embarrassed. Even if he defeated Long Yu, there was nothing to brag about. If he lost, he would be in big trouble. This squad leader would lose all his face. Therefore, this squad leader naturally didn't have a good impression of Long Yu. However, Long Yu didn't mind. This situation was perfect. Otherwise, he would have been afraid that the other party would hold back and not use his full strength. Now, there was no need to be afraid. The other party definitely wanted to fiercely slap Long Yu in the face. Then let's begin. Shui Luo had also come this time. He sat together with Red Oriole and Consort Yu, watching the arena with interest. He had obviously heard of Long Yu's achievements in the battlefield with the foreign races. Moreover, he knew much more than his subordinates. Of course, he was even more interested in Long Yu. If Long Yu could defeat a mid-level Sovereign Realm squad leader after just breaking through to the low-level Sovereign Realm, then Long Yu's strength was truly heaven-defying. No matter what, the difference between a low-level sovereign and a mid-level sovereign was 3 to 5 times. If Long Yu dared to challenge him, it meant that he was confident. I heard that he obtained a divine absolute beginning treasure in the battlefield with the foreign races. It's very suitable for him, right? Shui Luo knew quite a bit, but he didn't know the details, so he asked Red Oriole. Red Oriole gave a rough summary of what had happened. He just happened to encounter the absolute beginning furnace. However, in order to save the divine absolute beginning treasure, he returned to the space-time tunnel where he disappeared to face 3 demigods. I was scared out of my wits at the time. Luckily, he was fine in the end. This kid, he's truly bold. Shui Luo couldn't help but laugh. He now had a deeper understanding of Long Yu's personality. Soon, the battle began. The opposing squad leader had no intention of showing mercy at all. Not only did he attack first, he also used a powerful innate mystique. The blood-colored divine light turned into 3 endless blood-colored lines that swept towards Long Yu. This mystique was both a control technique and an offensive technique. The 3 blood-colored lines circled in the air, emanating an extremely dense and bloody aura. In an instant, the 3 blood-colored lines wrapped around Long Yu and actually began to absorb the blood in Long Yu's body. Little void go. Long Yu didn't even think about it. He just urged the void dragon blade with his heart, and then he didn't pay any attention to the 3 blood-red lines anymore, because he knew that little void would help him deal with them. As expected, before the 3 blood-colored lines could unleash their power, the void nether dragon blade flew out of Long Yu's sleeve. It drew a light blue streak of light and carried a wave of water-type absolute beginning power. The water-type absolute beginning power turned into a blade light. This was the void nether dragon blade's ability to penetrate through the void. It instantly cut the 3 blood-colored lines into pieces and destroyed the opponent's innate mystique in a short amount of time. At this time, Long Yu had already opened his mouth. A 9 nether dragon breath shot out. The pitch-black flames broke through the air and landed on the opponent. Perhaps it was because he had a powerful defensive weapon protecting him. The mid-level Sovereign Realm squad leader didn't dodge. Instead, his entire body glowed with a blood-red color as he faced Long Yu's 9 nether dragon breath. Everyone in the audience could see what he meant. "I'm not afraid of you. Bring whatever you have on you. I'm too lazy to dodge." This action immediately attracted waves of cheers that could shake mountains and rivers. All the spectators in the arena cheered, cheering for the squad leaders of their respective armies on the battlefield. However, the cheers soon came to an abrupt end, because no one expected the 9 nether dragon breath from Long Yu's mouth to be so powerful. Even with the immemorial defensive weapon armor protecting him, Long Yu's 9 nether dragon breath still caused great damage to it. More importantly, the mysterious shadow power had a corrosive effect. In practically a breath's time, the surface of the blood-red defensive weapon armor was completely corroded. If this continued, the defensive weapon armor definitely wouldn't be able to withstand the corrosion of the 9 nether divine characters. After all, Long Yu's basic strength had increased. His compatibility with the Shadow attribute divine characters had reached the peak of level 12. He also had the mysterious shadow power. Most importantly, his inner world had transformed into a small world, and his world energy had increased. This series of enhancements had caused the destructive power of Long Yu's innate divine abilities to rapidly rise to an unimaginable level. Even the immemorial defensive weapon armor couldn't withstand the corrosion of the 9 nether dragon breath. This caused the mid-level Sovereign Realm squad leader to be stunned for a moment. However, he immediately reacted. He originally wanted to face Long Yu's attack head-on. He didn't expect Long Yu's attack to have such terrifying destructive power. He was shocked. He had no choice but to change his battle strategy. He truly treated Long Yu as an evenly matched opponent. After all, even his strongest attack couldn't destroy the defensive weapon armor on his body as quickly as the 9 nether dragon breath. Therefore, he knew that Long Yu definitely had true strength. That was why he dared to challenge a mid-level sovereign like him. If he continued to underestimate his opponent, he might really lose to Long Yu in the end. Blood-red divine characters, endless blood shadows. The mid-level sovereign immediately used a supreme Archean martial art technique. Endless blood-red divine characters suddenly erupted from his body and condensed into tens of thousands of blood-red shadow clones. These blood-red shadow clones charged directly at Long Yu's 9 nether dragon breath. Then, they immediately self-destructed, easily destroying Long Yu's 9 nether dragon breath. Then, one after another, blood-red shadow clones charged directly at Long Yu. It was obvious that this was a powerful technique that used a single divine character to condense a clone and then self-destruct. This martial art technique had most likely been cultivated to a transcendent or even a transcendent level. Otherwise, a supreme Archean martial art technique wouldn't be so powerful. Even Long Yu felt an unparalleled pressure. The squad leader of the Battlefield Legion is indeed extraordinary. It is only with such opponents that I can truly grasp my own strength. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.